Hello, everyone. I'm Captain Logan, and joining me tonight is Austin the Day Ghost. It feels like it's been 6 years since I did a stream with Austin. Welcome, buddy. I'm so happy that we were able to get together tonight for the 977th MCU speculation cast.
Yeah, are you sure it's been that few?
That might be a somewhat exaggerated number, but I don't think by very much. No, I'm with you. I might be off the mark. That might be too conservative of an estimate.
That's what I'm thinking, yeah.
I almost called it number 616. I nearly did that.
Well, we'll have to catch up with the DCU. I think we're on like 2 or 3 of those. So
we need another 914 more of those.
Mm-hmm. Same with the Batman. I think we've done at least one on that.
Yeah, and honestly, we could go ahead and do another one of those again with the recent news that did you and I talk about this off camera, that the Gotham TV show, or the Arkham TV show,
yeah, I think I was the one who first told you about it.
Is in fact, maybe you did, yeah, is in fact not set in the Batman continuity, but is supposed to be DC universe, but is still spearheaded by
Matt Reeves.
Yeah.
Which is kind of interesting. I guess Matt Reeves just kind of has his hand in everything Batman, because he's also
Batman.
a producer on Cape Crusader.
Yeah, I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall with that conversation with him and Gunn to see exactly how that ended up happening, because I've seen some people complain that Gunn is lying about things, and I think stuff is just malleable and gets changed, but then he's trying not to make things overly complicated and maybe even save face a little bit, and so he's not gonna come right out and be like, these things keep changing. But pretty clearly from the beginning, that used to be the Batman project, and he's talking about it now like it was always that. There's no way it was.
Well, I think it's the way he's talking about it is just that it's become a different project, because that show also starts as a GCPD show.
That's true,
and then
too.
That gets taken down. So I think that show's just had a lot of trouble getting off the ground in general, and that's kind of where they've settled on it.
Well, maybe we'll do one of these for that whole thing again at some point. Let's get to the MCU side of things.
We should wait until they cast a villain for the Batman too, at least, and then we can do a speculation cast.
Nah, I
we gotta milk it.
Nah, I think we should milk it for all it's worth. So that's a good segue into this kind of disclaimer, which is I'm going to do my best not to repeat myself tonight, but I don't remember all the ins and outs of what we did on the 976th MCU spoiler cast or speculation cast. So I'm sure some things that we talked about before will of course come up again, and we'll try not to repeat ourselves too horribly much. A lot of super chats have already come in about this, and I don't want to wait an hour before they get read, so I'm going to go to those pretty quickly. Let me just set up the premise for tonight's discussion, and then we'll start getting into comments, because there's a lot of interesting discourse happening already there, Austin, with different folks that have different perspectives and some kind of interesting but thoughtful argument happening there. Some people that think rebooting is a good idea, some people that don't want to see that happen. So we're going to talk about all of that. I want to make this a little bit more about whether that's a likely eventuality down the road. And I don't mean it's going to happen tomorrow, folks. I am suggesting that this is kind of my prediction, my theory, Austin. So I'll just go ahead and lay this out. I think, and this is a lot of ifs, right? But I think if Marvel can't turn things around for the general public and make people happier with their universe overall, because we keep talking about this, of course, a lot of talk about superhero fatigue in general. A lot of people kind of jump ship with Marvel. They're not interested anymore. They miss what it was before Endgame. They're kind of bored with it now. They feel like Marvel continues to tell them they have to watch everything, but there aren't those characters they're latching onto like they were with Iron Man and Captain America, Black Panther, etc., etc. So a lot of people seem, at least at the moment, kind of done with it. And we can argue about about whether they can turn that whole thing around. But what I'm thinking is, if they can't get people back in, invested in the universe they have now, and if DC successfully reboots, and they take the place of what MCU used to be, where they become synonymous with the superhero movie, I think there's a really good chance that Disney, Marvel, MCU looks at that and says, that's the ticket, that's what we have to do, and they start playing DC at the game they're playing now, and in kind of the way that DC was trying to play Marvel at their own game when they started the DCEU. So that's a lot of ifs. I think that there's every possibility of that happening. I think it's 5-10 years down the road.
Yeah,
but I think that could happen.
Mm-hmm. I also think the plan could have always been the at least semi-soft reboot with Secret Wars, because that's the version of that they're looking at most. So maybe there's a chance that they could have always been thinking, like, maybe we'll bring back, a version of Iron Man or Cap or whoever when we get there.
Yeah, that's a good call too. And I don't have Secret Wars in the conversation enough, because this is why I love doing these with you, Austin, because you always bring it back around. And you're like, well, don't forget though, that's the big Endgame. That's where all of this is going. And by Endgame, I kind of mean that. Like literally, doing the same thing they did in the first place. That is kind of this phase's version of Endgame. That's going to be where everything is going, and then they're going to stop and kind of soft reboot after that. But maybe a lot more so than last time. Because obviously, we didn't have a true soft reboot last time, but the baton was passed to different characters.
Yeah, exactly. We have like a kind of fresh state after Endgame, but not exactly a soft reboot.
And not fresh enough, it turns out, for a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
As I've always said, if they had taken some time off, made us live without it for a little bit, come back, and then really explore the status quo of, the 5 years after the blip, that would have been the right, way to handle it, I think. And certainly WandaVision was a step in that direction.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, that's the funniest thing, is I think a lot of us, probably not everyone, but a lot of us, were really excited when that's where we started.
Because I was afraid they wouldn't explore it at all, and then that was kind of all we got. or other things we got just weren't all that interesting to me, ultimately. I had this thought earlier too, Austin. I want to say this before I forget about it. It would be really funny if, and I'm not actually expecting this, but I just had this kind of flash of hilarity of a thing that could happen. It'd be really funny if, when we get to Secret Wars, MCU kind of like turns tail a little bit, and the way they soft reboot is to say, we actually have not been looking at the same universe of the original MCU up through Endgame this entire time post-Endgame. And it's like a dimension, like once
slightly
off, once removed, and then the way we bring back Captain America, Iron Man, and all of them is to say, no, they actually never left. Like the old man Captain America at the end of Endgame is not the real one. That was we were in a different dimension that whole time.
Oh God. Could you imagine how people would react to that?
That sounds like a CW Arrowverse move to me.
Mm-hmm. Well, I just think it's funny, like, if we do kind of reboot with Secret Wars, you'd have Marvel rebooting with a big event, and DC just going, we're starting over.
Yeah.
Like, we didn't even get a crisis from them, but Marvel might have one.
And that's what Flashpoint was kind of supposed to be, and then it ended up just being the end of their universe, and then they tacked on the couple of other projects that they were working on that they couldn't get out before that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And now Aquaman 2 ends with the most fitting end of that universe.
You know what? I don't know anything about that movie yet. I haven't had a chance to go. For those of you that don't know, by the way, I am technically on hiatus. I've been streaming. People are like, what does that mean, Gap hiatus? Like, you've been making things. Well, I'm not doing a regular schedule right now. I'm not doing a request. I'm kind of flying by the seat of my pants. I can't really, plan for shows, like, have a schedule. But I'm showing up when I can late at night doing some streams, and Austin happened to be available today, and so it was super cool of him to pop in and do this with me. But my wife just delivered our 6th child, and she is home for maternity leave right now. And so anyway, that's why I haven't been able to get to the theater to see Aquaman 2. Maybe this weekend, I don't know. I will get that reviewed when I can. Although it'd be really funny if I waited too long and it was already out of the theater because nobody's seeing it, and then...
Well, it's I don't think it's bombing technically.
Oh, is it actually performing?
Well, it had like a 29% drop on its second weekend, and I think it's already made more money than the Marvels. I think it's at like 250 worldwide, so I think it might technically make like a little bit of money back by the end.
So what you're saying is,
even.
So what you're saying is 20 people saw it the first week, and then like 15 people saw it the next week.
Exactly.
Wow, that's amazing. Okay, we've got super chats. Let's just start at that place, Austin. And there are, if we can get to them, there's some interesting comments from even before that I kind of want to look at. And I was going to start there. But since we already got super chats, let me read them in case folks don't, stick around with us all night long. Great and Powerful Dodd, $10 super chat. He was very vocal right away about this reboot idea. He says the problem is the people involved with these films, Disney, Marvel, Star Wars, etc. I don't know. He spelled Star Wars with 2 R's, but that.
Mandela effect.
It looks like a generic Star Wars title, like Dollar Store Star Wars.
Like Rebel Moon or something.
Yeah, exactly. I'm hoping to review that too if I can get to it. Connor wants to do that with me. But anyway, the problem is the people involved in these films prioritize their personal interests over source material. A reboot would look desperate.
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily think a reboot will fix everything. You very much run the risk of them rebooting, and then it's like, oh, well, now Iron Man and Cap are back, but they all suck.
Yeah, exactly. And you got to be careful. Like, the sensibilities can't be the same, but they can't be too different either.
Mm-hmm.
So what exactly does that look like? I mean, if you come back and you just try to make it exactly what it was before, it's been too long. The world has changed. I don't know how many people would accept that even if you did it authentically, just because they've seen it before. I'm not even talking about like social politics or anything. I'm just saying that we've already been there and done that, and so the best you could do is authentically repeat yourself, and the worst you could do is repeat yourself badly.
Well, how easy
either
would
way
it
you
be
go
for an MCU reboot to perform as well as like the Amazing reboot for Spider-Man?
Yeah. No, I had that thought too, and the big complaint I always had with the Amazing reboot was you didn't wait long enough. This would actually be the same sort of situation where the Spider-Man movies, even with 3 not being as critically successful as the first 2, but making a lot of money at the box office, that was a beloved franchise. And you cannot turn right around and reboot a beloved franchise and expect it to do as well. Now, I also don't think that you need... And again, try not to repeat myself too much, but I also don't think that you need all of these projects to do $1 billion. I think it would be okay if and when you did reboot, or even now, just pivoting and making different kinds of movies, smaller, subtler, not as expensive movies that don't have to be all about a moving toward a big Thanos kind of endgame. I think it is fine to make movies for a slightly more niche audience that only cost between $50 and $100 million to make.
Yeah, like
in the first
place. You could probably
place.
make like a Punisher movie on like $20 million.
Yeah, so it would be fine to do a reboot that isn't for everybody, but that would not be their goal. That would not be their end game. It would be trying to rekindle what they had before. That would be the whole reason to do that. So step 1, if you're going to reboot, take 5 years off. I think you absolutely have to do that, and let DC have the glory for a while. Is that massively risky? Yeah, but so is moving forward with stuff people don't care about. I also don't think that they should do that right now, Austin. I'm not suggesting a reboot right this minute, but I'm saying if they get to that place where to use Great and Powerful Don's word, if they feel desperate enough that they need a reboot, you got to maybe not 5 years, you got to take off at least 2 or 3 years, and not put out anything. I think you have to do that.
It's hard to say because they're also a studio, right? So it's like,
well, yeah,
they can't just sit around for several years.
But at least they're a studio under a big parent company,
But that big parent company is Disney, who will be staring down at them going, why aren't you making me money right now?
Well, that's why that's a mandate that would probably have to come from on high. This would have to be, like, whoever is at the top at the time. If it was still Iger, it would probably have to be him looking down going, okay, nobody cares about your movies right now. You need to kind of, like set back, clean house.
Mm-hmm. Because this is the same Bob Iger that was like, hey, Solo has to come out like 3 months after The Last Jedi, which is an exaggeration. It was slightly more than that, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. I don't know that he would be smart enough to handle it that way. And again, let me reiterate, I don't think Reboot is the right call right now in this moment necessarily. I still think there's a chance at turning it around, but I think that chance is getting slimmer the more they're putting out material that people aren't happy with, the more divided the fan base is. Mm-hmm. And all of that. And also, the big difference between Marvel rebooting in this moment and DC rebooting in this moment is DC had a divided fan base from the beginning. So their previous shared universe, their previous shared universe was never beloved.
Mm-hmm. No, DC's had a lot of apathy, and not only that, it's not like we're going, okay, here's Aquaman like right away, and here's Wonder Woman. Like, Superman hasn't had a movie in 11 years. Batman's a little different because there's a different franchise running, but like, we're not starting on the things that just came out last year.
Yeah, exactly. And it is the right call for them. Mm-hmm. And I also am not making the same suggestion with DC that I am with Marvel, where they need to take time off, because nobody's been paying attention to them anyway.
No, and it will be good for them that they'll at least have a year off. Yeah, I mean, we have Creature Commandos coming out this year, but it's not, the big Superman movie.
Let me read his next super chat, because it's the same guy. Great and Powerful Dodd, $4.99 super chat. Appreciate the support tonight, man. Unless they clean house, they'll just update for a modern audience in a reboot. Yeah, and I don't want to comment too much on the, like social political side of this whole thing, because I know, different people in our audience are going to feel differently about that. That certainly is a component to this, of course. Like, wherever you land on that, just the perception of Disney cares, and Marvel in general cares more about like a message than they do about the storytelling. Somebody, and I agree with this, suggested outside of super chats, just in the regular comments, that the problem isn't necessarily what the politics are, but just the execution of it. And I certainly agree with that. Like, if all you care about is like quote unquote message, but and that takes the place of good storytelling and compelling characters and stuff, it's phony, it's false, and it's not right to go, yeah, but our heart's in the right place, we're making the right message. And I think a lot of people feel that way about them right now.
Yeah, and I don't even know if that's necessarily an issue. Like, that's not why Ant-Man 2 sucks.
No, it's not.
That's not why God, I'm trying to think of even things they've released. People like it, but I think it sucks. Shang-Chi, like, it doesn't suck because it tried to force a message. If anything, like, most of those movies are devoid of anything.
Yeah, well, and on the Marvel side of things, with Disney, I have, first of all, I've not been paying real close attention to their animation side and Pixar and stuff, and I'm hearing a lot of complaints from people that all of the kind of like pandery forced messaging and stuff is more like on that side of things. I can't really speak to that, but with Marvel, like, it's for me the issue has been more that just I haven't cared enough about characters and like I don't think that they've handled politics particularly well. I haven't been offended. I just haven't felt like they've been real mature about it. Like with Falcon and Winter Soldier and things like that, where I'm like,
Well,
I
that
don't really understand.
example-
I don't really understand where the racial component of that show is coming from. It's not offensive. It's just not handled particularly in a particularly mature or sophisticated way. Wakanda Forever was a mixed bag for me. That movie was honestly a little better than I thought it was going to be, but the problem wasn't the way the politics were handled in that movie. It was the writing.
Well, Falcon and Winter Soldier is actually, I think, a perfect example of what I'm talking about. Because you go back to our review, and all of us are complaining that it has nothing to say. Like, it has
Yeah,
no
what's it
message.
about?
It's very surface level. And most of us were like, hey, couldn't you have dug a little deeper and maybe played a little bit more with, like, the race message?
Yeah. Now I will say where I have felt like these things were a little bit too messagey or like preaching at me and stuff has been more on the TV side. So like I did, you and I talked about that when we watched She-Hulk together. Like it did feel kind of pandery and forced in places with that. I mean, we were talking over it, but I was detecting some of that, and I was having some of that with the Nick
Like
Fury
the
show.
incel villains
Why
and
can
stuff.
I never remember the name of that show? No, but I was Secret Invasion.
When Secret Invasion is just, like, nothing.
So I get his worry that the point of like if they rebooted, it would just be like overly in his mind, for his taste, like modernizing it, trying to be like even more pandery and about the message or whatever. It would be ironic if that happened, because the whole reason for it would be to try to be accessible again, to try to bring back everybody that left.
Yeah, and I mean, there's certain things that, I would like to see brought back, and I have no faith that they'll actually do what I want. Like, at this point, I just have to accept that I'm never going to get an Iron Man movie where he's an actual alcoholic, because Disney and Marvel will not let that happen. And I don't know, it's unfortunate, but that's also what they were doing anyways.
I think if they could get into an attitude of, okay, the heyday, the renaissance for superhero movies is over, and we're making there is still money to be made, but there's less like interest overall. You could get that movie way down the road when they finally realize who their audience is. But I think it's going to take a long time, and the ship may have sailed at that point finally. I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard to say. With that specifically, it's like, it's okay when they do it as a joke, but they can't do anything serious with it.
But why is that, like, Austin? I mean, it's because
I don't know.
But I'll tell you, like, it's because these things are too popular. They're family movies. Like, that's where the sterilization happens, right? If they can have more, and we don't know what Deadpool 3 is going to be like, but if they can have more movies where they're not afraid of the rated R thing, where they can make like smaller, subtler things for a more niche market, and it's not all just on TV, then you could, because they're in this really like awkward transition place where they still want these things to be like ubiquitous and for everybody, and this like big juggernaut like it was with the first Avengers movie on, And it isn't that right now, and I think they're trying to figure out whether it ever can be again, and if that's what they should be trying to make. And so if they, because I think that's what DC has maybe finally figured out in hiring Gunn is, oh, these things can be for different markets, and Gunn would make that movie a DC. You know, like
Well, I think
find me
over
the
time-
alcoholic DC superhero, you'll get that movie over there. But it took the whole thing breaking down. Well, I say that they started with movies for a more niche audience, but just pretended like they were for everybody with BVS. So that's a whole other animal. The way DC handled things, it was really counterintuitive. I just think there's this nice middle ground you can set, right, where even movies all in the same universe don't have to be all for the same audience necessarily.
No, I think Deadpool 3 is pretty dead on arrival, but Blade will be probably a big thing to, see how this is handled, with that being an R-rated movie and also being a lower budgeted movie. But it's also been in development hell for like 5 years. So.
Well, and again, I don't know what Deadpool 3 is going to look like, and I'm sure that's going to be like massively commercial, despite being rated R. Just in being kind of like nostalgia bait and all of that. My hope is that if it is really successful, they learn the right lessons from it. But then I doubt that they would because of No Way Home. Like if it is very nostalgia bait, we just brought in a bunch of characters from old movies that we franchises that aren't being made anymore. They're gonna go, well, that's the ticket now, because the last $2 billion movie they had was that.
Well, a big thing for me with Deadpool, for why I don't trust it, isn't even premise. It's we started with a director that's not great, and then went up slightly with a better director, and then dropped off a cliff and found a third director. But we'll see, I guess.
Yeah, no, I don't trust it. I'm leery of it, but for the sake of this discussion, I'm kind of just more interested in what lessons might be learned from like Marvel and Disney finally having a rated R superhero movie. And in a year where that's most of what's coming out, and where MCU doesn't have a regular kind of tentpole movie. Because Deadpool 3 will be the only MCU movie. That will be the only MCU movie next year, and it's not for kids. Sorry, I didn't mean to step on you.
No, I was just saying it is going to be really interesting to see how that stuff lands, because Marvel has one movie that's R-rated, DC has one movie that's R-rated, and Sony is releasing 3 things. I don't know if they will be movies, but they will be in the theater.
They're going to dominate next year. This could not have been predicted 10 years ago. That the winner for sheer number of films coming out will be a studio that is making spin-offs of a character that they're not spinning actually out of it all, because he doesn't even exist in that universe.
No, who would have guessed that in 2024 Sony would have had their ducks in the row more than either of the other 2 companies?
And that's really just because
Baffling.
That's really mostly just because they also delayed a movie for a long time with reshoots and strikes and stuff, just like everybody else did. But it's really funny that's winding up the way it is, because there's so many different things we're talking about. I'm struggling to remember names of things. But they had a movie that was supposed to come out this year that they had to put out to next year.
Well, and El Muerto was supposed to be like next week.
Remember that? Oh yeah, and you and I were gonna review the 2 El Muerto comics that exist.
The only 2 issues he's ever appeared in.
It's not even relevant anymore. I said we should still do it because it's funny. We were gonna, but no. Kraven the Hunter. Sorry, that was supposed to come out this year.
Yeah,
originally
last year. Yeah.
I'm sorry, last year. It is now the 2nd.
Oh, it's crazy.
I guess for you it's the 3rd already.
Well, and for all we know, Venom could get pushed. Who knows?
Yeah, I kind of don't think that comes out next year. We don't even have a teaser yet.
Or
I'm sorry, this year. God, I'm gonna do that all night long. I'm not gonna remember that it's 2024. No chance.
Yeah, I think it's filming now, but who knows? Who knows with that?
Let's move through these super chats. Billy the Kid Lawrence, $5. Ironheart is getting massive reshoots, just like everything else. I hope they don't scrap the White Castle. We need White Castle to save the MCU. They can't scrap it because they built it from the ground up. They couldn't just go to one. They built one. And yeah,
But what if they destroyed it and they don't have reshoots? Like they need reshoots in that location.
Oh.
So they just go, okay, we'll digitally change it to Burger King. Billy the Kid Lawrence is also, I think, the person that initially told us that they were using White Castle.
So he's just been following the production of this like a hawk, but just for White Castle. That's all he cares about.
He's giving us all the updates on it.
We appreciate that, Billy the Kid Lawrence. Yeah, I still will never understand where the running White Castle joke came from that started all the way back in the Doctor Strange 2 spoiler cast, but I think that was where we first learned that White Castle was getting built for that movie or for that show. Or maybe it was a stream or two after that, I forget. But
I think it was after that, but there was that big White Castle show for Doctor Strange.
But importantly, that did not come up because that was being filmed there, which is shocking.
No, I will never understand where that came up.
Or because that had a White Castle in it, excuse me. Yeah, now that he's mentioned that, let's go ahead and go down the list of upcoming stuff that's supposed to come out. And just to kind of lay this out and remind everybody the kind of shambles I think that MCU is sort of in right now, where like there are the few things that are about to come out, but there's stuff that we've known about for a long time that's getting put off, that's being shelved for a long time. Like they have, you look at the slate as it is right now, Austin, and then you go back and you look at the original slate from, going all the way back to Phase 1, and like the only thing that was announced and scrapped completely was Inhumans, and even that got a TV show. And now you just look at all this stuff that gets announced and then moved around or never made or made like 3 or 4 years later. It is like any way you slice it, whether you like the stuff that they've been putting out better than me or not right now, it's a mess. Like it's an absolute mess.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, I think, the best thing to look at it with is, they announced Fantastic Four, I think 4 years ago now, as of this coming year. We still don't have a cast. Gunn was announced as the head of DC at the end of 2022, and we have most of the cast for his first Superman movie.
Yeah. No, that's an excellent point. And it's important to note that their biggest movie from this last year was made by him.
Yes. Well, it was not just Marvel's biggest movie. It was like the only Disney movie that turned a profit this year.
Yeah. And I've said this before, but that's the example that people like to go to when I say that MCU is in bad shape right now, where they're like, well, what are you talking about? Look how huge that was. And I'm like, yeah, with a cast that was beloved and that is no longer coming back, and with a director and writer that created that whole side of the universe by himself and left for the other studio. So, like, how can you use this as evidence that they're in a good place? Like, who are let me say this real quick before we go down this list. Who even are the creators at the studio anymore? Everybody's leaving.
Yeah.
The showrunner for What If, that show just dropped like a week or two ago. Just left.
Yeah, like they released that season, and then like a day after they released it, they released a clip of season 3, and then like 2 days later, that showrunner left.
Yeah, like I'm just calling it as it is. This isn't me like, screaming for glee that they seem to be in trouble. Like I don't want them to not be successful, at least if the stuff is good. Like I want the stuff to be good and I want it to work out. And I want the superhero fatigue discussion to go more in the direction of quality over quantity, because look, if MCU was in the same place it is right now, where their quality of material is dicey at best, where there's not a standard, right? Back when people really started turning on DCU after BVS and then Suicide Squad, etc., and then but especially Joss Whedon's Justice League. The whole superhero fatigue conversation would have been at its peak all the way back in 2017, and it wasn't, because people still cared about these movies. There was at least that one big thing that, again, people saw as like ubiquitous, as like synonymous with superhero movies. Well, you don't have that right now. And I saw somebody in the comments right at the beginning that said, well, clearly the superhero thing is basically done now. And that's only true if you have too many years in a row of mostly duds. Like, it can absolutely turn back around. Is it ever going to be back what it was during the heyday of Avengers, and especially Infinity War and Endgame and stuff? I don't know. But, like, nothing in history has ever been as huge as that. Does it have to be to still be relevant? No. Like, these things don't have to make $1 million, like a $1.5 billion every time. They don't. They just have to do better enough than what their initial budgets are. There's still an audience for this stuff. And every time I say that, the examples I'll throw out, there's always somebody that and not to be mean to anybody, but this is just my argument. Somebody will think that every example is an exception, right? Where I'm like, well, the Batman did well. Well, it's Batman.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, that's absolutely true. Like Spider-Man, Batman, to a lesser degree, maybe Superman, I guess, will probably always perform.
Yeah, but if that's true, then superhero fatigue has not completely ruined the genre. Genre. Yeah, now it might be harder, admittedly, because like I'm also not trying to defend the whole genre too much, because I've seen some people too far the other way that just like love every superhero thing that comes out because it's superhero, that think that superhero movies will continue to perform no matter the quality because there's enough people that just love superhero movies. That clearly is not the case. Look at the Marvels. Like, no. But if people are not turning on Batman, Spider-Man, if you put in like Deadpool, I'm sure that will perform.
Probably, yeah.
People have to start turning on the big stuff.
Yeah, it's when Spider-Man
and when it's not,
like
and when it's not
$100 million,
real crappy. Like, it was really telling when the first Justice League movie failed, but that's because it wasn't good, and because the last couple of things that were leading up to it, a lot of people felt like weren't good. Because Man of Steel and BVS both made a lot of money. Man of Steel didn't do what Warner's wanted it to do, but I mean, it performed. And then BVS was huge because it was like, history making. And then Justice League was terrible.
And then even then, somehow Aquaman turned around and made $1 billion.
Yeah, so
very strange.
So I am simultaneously saying that yes, superhero fatigue is real, but it is not over yet.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. It's not over yet.
I tend to agree with people that say it's more just bad movie fatigue. Like, people are tired of these movies sucking. At the same time, I also don't really want it to go back to like that kind of 2018, 2019 era where it was, hogging all the theaters.
Yeah,
it would be nice if it like picked up again, but not to the extent where it strangled everything else out.
Yeah, like on a selfish note, I don't care how these things perform at the box office as much as I care about the quality of them, but you need them to perform so that more of them will be made. So you need to have that nice sweet spot, because I got quote-unquote fatigued or burnout or whatever when, like you said, it hogged the theater and there wasn't enough else to go see, that you had to rely on streaming services for smaller, more kind of for lack of a better word, like art house things, because people like Scorsese couldn't even get their movies in the theater. There's a nice middle road place here where I want these things, because I also don't want them to be so big that they have to be safe. You know, like if they're popular enough to perform, but not so popular that everybody and his dog wants to go see them, you and I might finally start seeing the superhero movies that are made for comic book fans, and that's what I want.
Well, yeah, and superhero, I think you can make an argument that has really held the comic book industry back and kind of strangleholded it for a long time.
Yeah,
you don't want that to happen to film as well.
I think it's also important to note that because I was going to do a whole stream answering this question, and I think I'll just kind of tack this on here because I don't know that there's a whole hour to discuss for this. But Austin, I was thinking about making a video just answering the question, why am I still even talking about superhero things? Because because
it makes us money.
Yeah, but it's like, but for how much longer, right? Because you do have a lot of people saying, well, it's not relevant anymore. It's like it's going away. And I just like occasionally I'll get a note from somebody that's like, God, I'm so burnt out on this stuff. Why are you still talking about it? And I'm like, as you alluded to, one of the reasons is that is still the central topic that our audience is most interested in. And there's that question, if things keep going the way they're going, like how much longer are all of us even going to want to keep really talking about superhero stuff? But my answer to that is, well, I didn't jump on a bandwagon when I started talking about superhero movies and comics and things all the way back in 2009. It was starting to really pick up with Dark Knight and Iron Man, but it wasn't the big box office draw that was like 75% of Hollywood's take or whatever yet. I didn't get into it because it was popular. I got into it because there wasn't anybody else really doing just superhero movies, so I felt like it was I felt like I was kind of filling a void, filling a need, and it felt like it was a thing that I knew something about and that I liked talking about, and so I thought it would be fun to do. For me, Austin, I almost would enjoy this more if everybody wasn't looking at it. There's like this pressure kind of when a huge movie drops to like fall into the consensus where people are so like obsessed with the people they're watching, like validating their opinion or feeling the same way they do about them, that this stuff is kind of more fun for me to talk about when the stakes don't feel as high, when like everybody and his dog isn't like, oh, you better love this or you better hate this, you know what I mean?
Yeah, like liking the Marvels.
Yeah, I know. But I'm not gonna pretend like I didn't, okay? Like that's the thing is I don't pull my punches, and so when weird stuff happens, like BVS comes out and I have an odd response to it where I can't decide how I feel about it, and then the second time around I've really solidified my opinion, and so like it looks like I'm flip-flopping. I try to just come in and be honest, you know what I mean? And so like that was the honest experience I had with that. Or with Dark Knight Rises, when the whole universe is celebrating it, and I come on off on an island going, I don't know about this movie, and a lot of people get really angry with me. Like that was not a fun moment for me. Don't get me wrong. Like that was not an easy comment section to read. But I wasn't going to turn around and make another video and be like, yeah, it was fine.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I was thinking, because you mentioned the whole,
now I will say real quick, I did do that kind of thing once or twice where I would make a video about something, and then people would argue with me in comments, and then I would make a follow-up addressing those arguments, because sometimes people would have a point, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like I did Power Rangers 2017, was somewhat down on it. I got some comments where people were like, well, you're saying there's not like any creativity or heart or whatever, and then I come back where I'm like, okay, there's a little bit, here's where that is, but like it's still not great. And then I made a whole I did a whole discussion about the one thing I thought was a really cool idea in that movie that I didn't talk about enough before that. I don't think I was flip-flopping and wishy-washy with that. I was just like coming back and kind of I don't know, trying to explain myself further or addressing a thing I hadn't thought to talk about in the first place is all.
Mhm.
It's difficult to communicate and be consistent with this stuff.
I mean, opinions change,
That too, yeah.
or you learn things that you didn't have right away. Like another one, I know when you initially reviewed Ghostbusters 2016, you were more like, it was okay. And I think you've like turned more sour on it over the
Yeah.
years.
No, absolutely.
We all have stuff like that.
Stop dancing.
Yeah. Just because you're a bad person, Cap, doesn't mean you can't change your opinion, is all I'm saying.
Well, no, I appreciate that. Yeah, no, thanks for that honesty.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
But no, sorry, we're going off on a tangent. But all of that just to say, it's I got into this whole thing in the first place as more of a niche kind of thing. And in some ways it did kind of, like, it was neat to see it get this popular, but there were downsides to that.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I was listening to an interview the other day with Mark Millar, and he was talking about getting the Wanted movie made. And I thought this was kind of interesting. It kind of relates to what you were saying with the niche thing. Because that also comes out in 2008. And he was saying that, yeah, because that's a super villain comic, but they like completely removed that for the movie, right? And when they were making it, Universal was like, yeah, like that's like a fad that's leaving. Like we're not gonna put that in this movie. We're gonna lose money if we include like superhero stuff in this.
Yeah.
Like that's where it was at that point.
That's not what would happen now. They would
No.
really steer into that.
Exactly, yeah.
Well, and the other point I wanted to make with that before we get back to super chats is I think there are a couple of different big camps with superhero movie interest and the whole superhero movie fatigue idea, Austin. So there's the people that were already interested in superheroes and into that as a genre with comics and cartoon shows and video games and whatever, and it became this huge movie thing, and so they had those things to go to. And then you have the people that got into it that way that got into superheroes through the movies in the first place. For those people, and I don't mean all of them, because some of those folks obviously then went and started reading comics and doing some of that other stuff, and maybe they became big superhero fans, and the movies don't have to be great for them to stay interested in it. But how many people do you think, Austin, need the movies to be great? Need to still be invested in, particularly MCU, to even care about superhero as a genre, as an idea?
Sorry, I was responding to somebody in the comments. What?
So the point I'm making is,
Sorry.
I think that a lot of the people that are most screaming superhero fatigue, like that genre is done now, are people that only care about superheroes because of movies.
Yeah, probably.
Like through movies. So the point I'm making is, if you,
a lot of people that just don't like the genre as well that are saying that as well.
It's like a wishful thinking thing. Like they want it to go, and I can sympathize with why you would want it to go away.
Mm-hmm. Kind of similar to, I remember when the Ultimate Cut of BVS came out, and like every person that was saying it's so much better were the people that were saying they loved it in the first place. And I was like, but you're the people that liked this. And obviously that's not entirely the case for everyone. That was a lot of what I saw.
Yeah, I mean, I'm seeing people that, I don't want to put anybody in a box, but like when I was a kid and I was real into superhero comics and cartoons and stuff, I wouldn't have given that the time of day, but then it became like the big popular family entertainment, and they got really invested in the MCU. If they don't care about those characters anymore, they're not going to care about superhero. It's sort of like you're not suddenly like a computer person or a tech head because you use a cell phone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's like that. It's like if your phone didn't do all the things you need your phone to, the people that spend all day looking at their phones would not suddenly like go to a computer and learn how to build a PC. Any more than MCU fans that got into it through that are going to go read a comic book.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. I mean, there is that case of they started making it for that audience, and then it turned off a lot of people like us that like those comics.
I think slowly it started turning off the audience they were placating to.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, because eventually you're just making things for no one.
Yeah. Well, and they get bored with it because they've seen it before. Okay, Balan's, or Balance, sorry, not Balan, Balan's Wonder World. Balance Cubicle, $4.99 super chat. Did you hear that Steamboat Willie is public domain now and people are already making horror films and games with Mickey Mouse? Yeah, I want to try to stay on point with this topic, so we're not going to talk about that for too long, but thanks for the super chat. Yeah, Austin and I were talking about that off camera yesterday, I think.
Yeah. Public domain can be a bit of a hellhole sometimes, where it's like, everybody can use this thing now. Here's 8,000 pieces of crap, and then it kind of just dies.
What'll be interesting to see with that in particular is whether that gets sued. Because there's a real gray area question as to whether what they're using for that terrible looking horror film, because I did see the trailer for that.
When there's like even now, I think too.
Yeah, no, I saw that too. But I was just gonna say, there's a question as to whether what is in even that trailer is technically specifically only what is public domain.
Mm-hmm. No, I'm sure Disney will be, having lawyers go over all of this to make sure it's all, to make sure that they can sue them.
What I want to know is why it's always horror first and nothing else. Is it just because it's cheap to make? Like
it's cheap to make, and it puts eyes on it because it's a kid's thing. So you go, oh man, look at how dark and crazy we made it.
Yeah.
But my big question, though, is, okay...
It's so edgy. We made Mickey Mouse a killer. We made Winnie the Pooh a killer.
Mm-hmm. But my big question, though, is can Disney not be like, hey, this property went into the public domain 2 hours ago, and you already have, like, trailers for games and movies? Like, you guys were working on this before it was.
Well, I don't know how the law reads. I mean, is it about when it's being worked on or when it's being released?
I don't know, because I've always just thought it was like you can't work on that. I mean,
I don't know if you can sue somebody for that specifically, where it's like, you shouldn't have even been made, because
well, I'm not saying that they should get sued either. It makes me wonder. It's interesting.
Well, I think the loophole with that is, well, it starts as a fan film.
That's probably exactly.
And now we can sell it because it's public domain. So like you can work on anything as a fan film, and like you can't get like fined or arrested or anything. I wouldn't think for making a thing, but you could for releasing it, right? So even.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, they can cease and desist you, but they're probably not going to sue. So.
Well, that's true.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know anything about law, clearly.
So far, we haven't... What I'm curious to see with the public domain thing is if you ever get a really popular, successful, profitable thing out of something public domain. It's never happened to my knowledge.
The only thing that I can think of that's like successful, or at least in public domain, is
at least in recent memory. Like it happens with Sherlock Holmes all the time.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Is that's like the only thing that comes to mind of just something in the public domain that's like largely successful overall.
Yeah.
You could make an argument for Marvel's Thor, but obviously that's like a copyrighted version of a public domain character.
Yeah, like and a thing that's always been in the public domain. Like I'm curious to see something that in our lifetime wasn't.
Stuff isn't.
Oh, is that right?
Well, yeah, because it's not like we're making a ton of profitable mythology films right now.
No, but I mean, we have in the past.
No, of course, but
something like Thor, like Norse mythology or Greek mythology, that's stuff that was never like privately copyrighted.
No, that's very true. Yeah,
Unless
like
the
when
Romans
Superman
were
goes to the public
copywriting
domain.
like the gods they worshipped and believed in.
Mhm. Well, it's going to be interesting, with like Superman and Batman going into the public domain because it's going to be so limited. While Mickey Mouse, for example, you have the kind of basic package right away. Like obviously you don't have everything, but you have the main character that we all kind of recognize, at least from the
Yeah,
get.
but it's and these things always get really silly, but like it's that specific version, so he's got to be lanky enough. He might have to wear precisely that outfit.
Yeah, but it's also like you can change it and say, well, I'm going just off of that. It just can't be exactly what other modern versions
Yeah,
are.
you do that, but you just have to be careful enough not to make it look like it's come out after that. Okay, moving right along. Here's $5. Put in a $5 super chat, but sadly retracted his message. And I'm not sure why he would do such a thing. Here's $5 always has the cleverest and most enjoyable super chats, and I am very bummed not to get to read it. Oh, he put in another one.
So yeah, no, he resubmitted it because I saw it and I was like, that's the greatest thing I've ever seen, and then he put it back in.
Well, sorry about whatever happened there if it was like a technical problem or something, but appreciate the $10. Here's $5. Hope Majors saved up. We haven't even talked about that whole thing. I made that the thumbnail. That was a big part of the reason I wanted to do this. Hope Majors saved up a lot of $5, or he'll be he who remains broke. Here's $5. So part of the reason I wanted to revisit this and why I wanted to talk about the whole reboot idea is because Marvel has had to make a lot of compromises lately, not just because of things that haven't been profitable, but because of things that are very much out of their control. Actors they can't work with anymore because of legal problems. Like I say actors, the majorest thing, actors dying that they don't want to recast. I mean, like these kinds of things have massively altered their creative plans. And it's looking more and more like they're not going to make Kang Dynasty the same way, and it might not even have that title. So we can speculate about what that movie is going to be, Austin. But another component to the reboot question is how much more of this kind of, their plans getting ripped to shreds are they going to take before they just throw their hands in the air and start over?
Well, yeah, before we came on, we were talking a little bit about this, and I said it'll be interesting because we have very different ideas on this. And the main thing I was thinking of was the Kang thing, because I know you're very much more on the, like, they'll probably just abandon Kang. Well, I think they'll just recast him, and I don't think any of that will actually change. I don't know if we'll still call that movie Kang Dynasty. I could see them just retitling it in general.
The rumor right now, and of course this is just a rumor, is that Kang Dynasty will just become Secret Wars Part 1, because it was basically that, apparently in the first place, that it was supposed to be like a setup movie for Secret Wars, but it would be kind of like Infinity War and Endgame, where it would just have a big cliffhanger and then you'd have to wait a year for the next movie. It would be very ironic if they changed the title of that to Secret Wars Part 1 and it doesn't even have a different title, considering that Infinity War was originally supposed to be Part 1 and Part 2. It'd be crazy if Secret Wars actually did that now.
Yeah. I don't think they'll do that personally.
I kind of don't either,
see.
but there's a lot of people that think that could happen. There's also been a lot of talk
see
that
them calling it just the New Avengers or something like that.
Well, I think that would actually be really kind of cool if it didn't have to have a subtitle like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It also could look lame to people, where it's like all of our characters look like B-list characters. This was also a thing you and I talked about off camera, that you said it's not really even clear who the main players are supposed to be anymore. And so if you called something the New Avengers, that might almost scream like secondary knockoffs.
That's true. Okay, we can call it the West Coast Avengers then. And then you'll go, oh,
that'll make it
the
seem
West people.
That'll make it seem way less like knockoffs.
Yeah, exactly.
The other rumor right now is that Kang himself will still be in the movie, but that there'll be this kind of transition thing where he turns into a different character, like the Beyonder. So he would get recast, but then he wouldn't be Kang anymore. So it'd be
Well,
like a
there's
Kang
been talk
variant
of
that turns into the Beyonder.
when there's been talk of the Kang Beyonder since like they announced Secret Wars and Kang Dynasty. So who knows with that? I could see them doing that or just going, the Beyonder's silly. We're not going to do that.
For a second, and again, I'm rehashing a little bit just for folks that maybe haven't heard me say this before, but this is the two sides of the argument that Austin and I keep having with this, okay? So, now, in my defense with this, Austin, I thought that it was like straight up announced that they were that they were axing the Kang Dynasty title, and I guess we don't actually know that for sure.
Mm-hmm.
These things are it's impossible to tell what really counts in the news with this stuff.
It really, really makes me appreciate the way James Gunn responds to things, because all of this just runs rampant. And it would be so easy for them to be like, no. Like, it's still called Kang Dynasty.
Yeah, I kind of wish they would do that. But here's the difference, or the two sides of our argument. The other side of this, beyond just Majors getting indicted, and by the way, that was the swiftest justice we've seen in a while, was it not? But
yeah, I was not expecting it to come in so quick.
It was pretty quick, and then the very same day, like 3 hours later, Marvel was like, "Yeah, he's out. We're done." Like they clearly
they'd been sitting on like, okay,
they had a thing drafted. Yeah,
this is what we'll release. If
that was drafted. They were all ready for that.
I thought they would at least wait a day, but
yeah, no, this business is politics as much as Washington is. Like,
exactly.
They had a draft waiting in the wings. It's like when you're, or it's like journalism. It's like when you're waiting to see who the president-elect is, and you've got and you've already run the two newspaper covers. It's like, it's this one's Truman, this one's Dewey. It's like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Or I think with the moon landing, they had like a speech written for in case they didn't make it back. It's like that.
Wow. But like, you can see why you'd have to do that, especially back when it took longer to get these things out because it's print. Mm-hmm. I digress. So there's kind of a 1-2 punch here. It's not just about what happened with Majors and having to recast, because if Kang was really popular, they would absolutely 100% recast. This is not the same situation as Black Panther, as T'Challa, obviously. But this is an excuse for them to go a different direction if they're worried that nobody cares about their big, huge Thanos level plan, because nobody cares about their big, huge Thanos level plan.
But also, like,
their big Kang setup movie didn't perform. And this would be a way for them to have an out with that. And then people keep talking about, because I haven't watched it yet, people keep talking about the end of the second season of Loki, which has him, and apparently gives them a really easy out to never use him again.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think the big thing to remember too is that when Ant-Man came out, people were like, "Wow, this movie's like the worst thing ever." But Jonathan Majors was really cool. I didn't have that. I thought Kang sucked in that movie.
Okay, I missed the memo on that. I heard exactly no one say that.
No, I heard a lot of people saying that, like, a lot of people make fun of the fact that he gets, eaten by ants.
Or maybe I heard people praising his performance. Nobody seemed excited about the character, though.
Mm-hmm.
Is what I'm saying. Sorry, I'm trying to go back to like year-old memories now. Maybe people were saying that, but I don't remember anybody being excited about the character.
See, I think people, like, it's weird because there was a lot of like, okay, the character's kind of lame. He gets beaten by like Ant-Man in his first appearance. Like, we didn't do that with Thanos, but also a lot of people saying Jonathan Majors was really intimidating, and like he had a lot of presence as Kang, which again I don't agree with. But
But do you really think? But let me ask you this: do you really think that Feige and the guys at the top are looking at the criticism as much as the dollar signs? Because they sold that movie really hard on Kang, and when it didn't perform, they've got to be worried about having his name in a title.
I mean, that is possible. Their like most successful show is also Loki, though, where he's also a big deal.
Okay,
so it's hard to say. Like I don't know.
That's an excellent argument. My question after that is, how many people are actually watching that show? Because I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, most successful doesn't really mean anything if you only have 1 million viewers versus how many people are actually going to the theater to see your stuff.
That's true, but all I mean is that there is a chance they could go, okay, Ant-Man bombed, but like the Ant-Man movies were slowly making less and less money. Like, people clearly don't care about Ant-Man.
That's true. So you and I have, well, and also it was a really weird choice in the first place to try to make an Ant-Man movie a huge event.
Yeah,
because they've always been but like Thor was always more popular than Ant-Man in the first place. So, like, they needed to turn it around. They needed to turn Thor around relative to Thor, and much to my chagrin, they were successful at that commercially, like box office wise. But with Ant-Man,
they almost should have had a reverse Ragnarok, where they made a more like darker street level Ant-Man movie.
Well, and that actually might
you could make it cheaper.
I think the mistake they made, like a lot of mistakes they've been making lately, has all to do with like buying their own press, drinking their own Kool-Aid, where they look at like some of the moments that people are quoting or talking about from Endgame, and Ant-Man's a big part of that movie, and they're going, well, that movie made, broke records and was huge, and Ant-Man was a big part of it, so now his solo movies must do better, right? Like, I don't think I never had this thought before. I don't think they ever think about making Ant-Man in an event movie if it wasn't for his part in Endgame.
Yeah, it's weird because Ant-Man and the Wasp is the only like post Avengers film that didn't receive like a big boost in money after that.
Yeah. You know why? Because it was an Ant-Man movie.
Exactly. Because it's like the most nothing movie ever made.
So Austin and I have been having this argument for a long time, like at least a year. Will Marvel keep the Kang Dynasty title, and will that still be a Kang movie? And my big question at this point, Austin, is how much money are we betting on this? Because I think at this point, you and I need
$1 gazillion.
I think we need an honest-to-God wager at this point. Because we have had this argument for we can do it off camera. There's going to be a wager on this. It's getting ridiculous.
I mean, I'm not betting that they won't change the title because I think they probably will. But I am staying on they will keep Kang for.
Okay, so I won't take that bet because I think Kang is in that movie because you have to write him out somehow.
But I'm talking about like he will be the main villain of Avengers 5 and Secret Wars.
Okay, I'll take that bet. I don't think if Secret Wars is in there, I will take that bet. But then the question is, does it still count? Hold on. Does it still count does it still count as a win for you if they change his name?
If they change his name,
yeah,
like if he's like Immortus or something.
Yeah, I mean, if he's a Kang variant, but they call him something else.
If he's still a Kang, then it still counts. But
then I won't take that bet because that could still happen.
This bet is null and void if Secret Wars never happens.
Secret Wars will happen.
I know. I'm putting in that
caveat,
that asterisk. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna throw my voice out here. I gotta quit yelling at Austin. 5590 ERS 499 super chat. My favorite thing to do with Austin is to spend like 20 minutes fighting about something that could not possibly matter less. Cap, have you played the Arkham games on Switch yet? No, I haven't. I have rebought those like a couple of times. I might eventually get that for Arkham City just for the novelty of getting to play it on the go, I guess. But I don't do a lot in handheld mode with Switch. I tend to play a lot more on the TV, and those are, inferior ports overall. Like, apparently, like, I've looked into it. Asylum and City run fine, and Night has a lot of problems, particularly in the Batmobile. It's pretty nuts they got any of that to run on the Switch in the first place. So, like, that's kind of cool, especially for City. But I just don't know that I really need it to travel with. Like, I'd rather just keep playing it on my PS4.
Yeah, I hadn't heard anything about Asylum and City, but I did hear that the last game was basically Arkham Nightmare on Switch.
Yeah, which
is not surprising.
And water is wet. Yeah, like when the whole universe freaked out about that, I was like, I don't know what you guys expected. Like,
Arkham Knight genuinely, I think, could be released right now on modern hardware, and it looks like a new next gen game. Like, that game looks great. Not so much like the gross, sweaty looking character models, but when you're just like flying around the city, it looks beautiful.
They would have needed to they would have needed to pull a Hogwarts Legacy with it, and that was never going to happen. They weren't going to spend the time and resources to low res that to the degree they would need to for it to run smoothly enough on the Switch. You were never going to see that. And people that thought they would go that far were that was like too hopeful, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it's weird because they didn't even put as much effort into the actual remasters that they put out for those games.
Yeah, which I liked better than a lot of people did.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when you put them side by side, I get the complaints about like lighting and colorization and all of that, but they run nicely.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I do think they do look worse, but it's whatever. Like, I'm there for gameplay.
I just thought it was kind of nice to be able to have it all on the one system.
And like Leo says in the chat, I'm also just waiting for an Origins remaster.
Yeah, I was about to bring that up too. Yeah, it was pretty nuts that wasn't on that collection.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
I don't mean Switch. I mean the remaster collection they did for PS4 and Xbox One. It's pretty nuts they didn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Now I would say that I would buy it on Switch tomorrow if I could play it on the new Switch Arcade that I bought.
I couldn't imagine playing that on stick.
Because that would be hilarious. But the problem is I can't use it. For anybody that doesn't know, I've got a repurposed Arcade 1-Up that's configured for Switch with Smash graphics on the sides, and it looks awesome, and it plays great. But the problem with it is it doesn't have a second stick naturally, because it's just an arcade board. So yeah, and like 3D platformers and action games and first person shooters and stuff aren't gonna work on that because you don't have twin sticks.
Mm-hmm.
But if I did, I would buy it tomorrow.
I couldn't imagine playing that on stick. That would be a nightmare.
See, I want to say challenge accepted, but I just can't do it. Okay, we spent too long on that. Apologies. That has nothing to do with this topic. But thank you for the super chat. Super Billy, let's get back on track here. $5 super chat. Marvel needs to take risks and allow for stylistic and tonal diversity. Agreed. He says maybe take a page out of DC's book and produce films outside of MCU continuity. Another rumor I've been hearing a lot lately is that their new strategy is going to be to just make... we never did go down that list. There are a list of things that are coming out. I was going to do that.
Yeah.
A big rumor lately has been that their new strategy is going to be to just maybe do what they should have done in the first place after Endgame and make stuff in the same continuity, but that isn't really leading to anything and is more standalone kind of anthology things. And the worry, I think, from a lot of people, and I include myself in this, is that it's just a little late now. That and I meant to make this this argument earlier, Austin. With the whole superhero fatigue idea, you and I have been in agreement that the problem has been quality, but I do think that for smaller, lesser known characters and projects outside of your Batmans and your Spider-Mans and stuff, there's gonna need to be a level of consistency before even really good movies do what they might have done 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree with that. Like, you're not gonna have like a Guardians level success on something like, I don't know, Moon Knight or something, when everything else is just kind of, in the crapper.
Yeah, like Guardians would not have performed the way it did if everything surrounding it wasn't really well liked right then. Like, there's a consumer confidence problem now.
Mm-hmm.
They don't
Yeah.
have the goodwill that they had back then. Back then it was, we'll try anything. It's Marvel. Just like, I'd say this all the time, but just like early Pixar. I don't know if I care about a thing about talking cars, but I mean, I'll try it. It's Pixar. Like, their stuff has been pretty good so far. And Marvel,
And then it lets you down.
Marvel banked on that for too long.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely.
And again, buying their own press, they went, oh God, they listened to Saturday Night Live, which nobody should ever do. They bought into that joke as a reality. Like Pam, the Winter Pam, they're like, yeah, we can make that movie, it'll sell.
I wish the Black Widow movie looked like the SNL Black Widow fake trailer then, where it's just a rom-com where she's dating Ultron.
That sounds better. That would
have been way better.
Yeah, I'll watch that. That sounds great. What do you think about Billy's idea of MCU making movies outside of its own continuity?
I mean, right now when the MCU kind of sucks, like, I would like to see good Iron Man movies. So yeah, if that's the way I have to get them, absolutely.
And I know I'm a broken record because I've said this before, but I still say that you had a really easy out to do that kind of stuff with Multiverse, and that hasn't been the way they took that whole thing. Like, the Multiverse saga could have just been, here's some other cool universes we're going to tell stories in. Is it too late to do that now? I'm not sure. It's hard to say. That would have been a good direction to take Disney Plus shows, though.
Yeah, absolutely.
All you had to do was, instead of making What If, you make like 5 What If shows.
Or you make What If, and then also we're making that freshman year show where it's like the MCU Spider-Man, but like slightly different.
Yeah.
Do that with other characters.
Yeah, absolutely. Which isn't called Freshman Year anymore, by the way. It's called Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man now.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought they gave it the title Homecoming should have had.
Yeah. And speaking of that, let's go ahead and run down these real quick. So, What If Season 2 just dropped? I'm thinking about doing a blind commentary on that over a couple of streams this coming week. I'm curious about it. Echo...
Oh, wait. Can I challenge myself and see if I can name them all off?
Because you're okay. So he doesn't see my screen right now. I have turned that off for the sake of bandwidth. So just everybody trust that Austin's not actually looking at the screen.
I can close my eyes if it's that big of a
deal. No, don't do that.
I'm not looking at anything. Yeah.
Go ahead, and you have to do it in perfect production order.
I don't know if they even have the production order on some of the stuff.
No, some of it they don't have, and you have to skip those things until you get past the dates that they do have. Good luck.
Okay, you just made this completely impossible, but okay. So we have Echo's the next thing, and then Deadpool 3.
Yes, that is right. Congratulations.
Agatha show that's changed titles like 16 times.
It's now called Darkhold Diaries.
Yes.
Which sounds terrible.
And I've also heard people say it might ultimately just be called Agatha, but who knows?
I want it to be called Agatha Explains It All. That's what I want.
Well, if they call it Agatha, then they're really leaning into the fact that they only greenlit that show because of the meme of that Agatha All Along show.
Yeah. No, it really... But it looked like that to me anyway.
No, of course. But if that's what they do with the title, where the title was Agatha All Along...
Oh, then... no. I don't know why they keep changing it. Like, what was it supposed to be called in the first place? Something like... Coven of Chaos or something. I don't know why they changed it. That sounds better than Darkhold Diaries. But I mean,
I don't know.
They're like, whatever it is, it better have alliteration. That's important.
Okay. I don't think this has Okay. Do I have to do like the other stuff, like X-Men '97?
Yes, because that is the next thing on this list.
Okay,
So
perfect.
congratulations. I don't understand, by the way. Well, I guess I do. Sorry, I should have interrupted you because you're trying to do this list. But with X-Men '97, I don't understand why that keeps showing up as an MCU thing, and even Marvel themselves keeps slating it like that. So it makes me wonder if that show itself is going to have some kind of cute, stupid, like MCU connection.
Well, I think I said on the spoiler cast of Doctor Strange that I would not be shocked if they retroactively say that that was the '97 universe that they went to, and that shows them like right after the death of Professor X. But who knows?
That probably is what they'll do, honestly. But then because they're doing the multiverse thing, that's what I was gonna say. Is they can say anything at all as an MCU because of the other universes, and then it makes, forgive me for saying it like this, but irritating fanboys go, oh, what's actually the real first MCU project? I'm like, it's Iron Man, everybody, calm down. Like,
it's the '60s Spider-Man cartoon, Cap. That's the first MCU project.
It's the, and then live action, it's the Tokusatsu Spider-Man.
Exactly.
Okay, you've nailed it so far.
Okay, I'm gonna say after that it's Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man.
That is correct.
And then I don't know if Marvel Zombies has a date yet.
It doesn't.
I'm gonna go to Captain America 4.
There is one project before that.
Thunderbolts?
Apparently, the Wakanda show.
Oh. Okay, so there's a Wakanda show, and then Cap 4, then Thunderbolts.
Cap 4, which got delayed by a whole year.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Which is insane.
And they're reshooting like a lot of the action, apparently.
Yeah, it's gonna be it sounds like almost a ground up different movie than what they made.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like Daredevil.
Yeah.
Which also doesn't have a date, so you don't have to say that yet.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so then Thunderbolts.
Nah, there's one thing apparently before Thunderbolts, unless you already said it.
Is it a TV show or a movie?
It's a movie. So you said, sorry, did you say anything between Captain America and Thunderbolts?
No.
Okay.
No, I went Cap 4.
Fantastic Four is May 2nd of 25.
Oh, okay. I keep thinking that's after. So Fantastic Four, Thunderbolts, Blade. I'm trying to think of things that just have dates. Probably Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars at that point.
Yep.
And then things that don't have dates, you got Armor Wars. You have that new Black Panther show they announced. It's like the history of Wakanda.
Well, I think that's the one that's supposed to be 24.
I don't think so because they just announced it. And there was already a Wakanda show they announced a few years ago.
Okay. That's supposed to be called Eyes of Wakanda, I guess.
Oh, okay. Well, they've announced like 3 Wakanda shows at this point.
But that
and I don't know
like
if any of them are actually happening.
But that sounds like what you were telling me about, where it was supposed to be like Wakanda agents, but going all over the world.
Maybe, but they're also making that Okoye show, so...
Oh, okay.
Maybe it's that? I don't know.
Is this going to be Harley Quinn and Joker all over again?
Yes.
Is that where we're at with this?
Yes. Okay, then we have... so I said Armor Wars. You got Spider-Man 4, obviously.
Yep.
Ironheart, Wonder Man.
And again, it's so weird Ironheart doesn't have a date.
Yeah, because it's already done filming.
Well, they've put out things that started filming after that, I think.
Yeah, no, I think Echo started filming after that.
I thought that was filming during or before Secret Wars, but I could be wrong about that.
A Secret Invasion.
Or Secret Invasion, yeah. God, too many secrets and invasions.
I think so. That sounds right.
Or wars, rather. Too many secrets and wars.
Okay, other MCU projects.
You're only missing one, I think. You said Armor Wars, you said Ironheart. We talked about Born Again. You didn't say that, but we talked about that. Wonder Man, Marvel Zombies. You're only missing 2 things.
Okay, are they movies or shows?
One is a show, or one is a movie. The other thing is a show.
Okay, so one is a movie, one is a show.
It took me a minute. I was like, what is that? I think the other's a show. Yeah. Unless you said the movie. Well, I'll just tell you. So the movie is Shang-Chi 2.
Oh, okay. See, that hasn't like officially been announced, so I wasn't counting it. But yeah, obviously we'll get Shang-Chi too. Just like we'll get Doctor Strange 3.
Was that not officially announced?
No, I don't think they've ever done it. That was in like there was like a list of titles that were it like came out were trademarked by Marvel, and that's how we found out about Secret Wars and Kang Dynasty.
Okay.
And Shang-Chi was in that list, but they didn't officially announce it then. It was like Shang-Chi and the Wreckage of Time or something like that.
That actually sounds like a cool title. Watch Austin tell me why it's a horrible sounding title.
I mean, I don't know.
Every time I like a title, you're like, no, that's stupid.
It's a martial arts movie, so it's weird that it's the Wreckage of Time. But like, that's just the first movie. Like, that's what they're stuck with. Oh, and the TV show is they're making a 10 Rings show.
That's not on here.
Oh, okay.
The TV show is Vision Quest.
I forgot they were making that.
I forgot about that too.
Okay.
Let's go through some more super chats.
Young Avengers, probably. That'll probably be there.
Probably, although I also think it's entirely plausible. Tell me what you think about this. That the main Avengers team in Kang Dynasty, or whatever it ends up being called, is the Young Avengers team. Because who else do you have right now? I mean, like, it's mostly those characters at the moment.
I don't know. I'll be shocked if the main Avengers team in Kang Dynasty is not like Sam Captain America, Captain Marvel, Hulk, maybe She-Hulk, Thor.
Okay. I guess
Shang-Chi.
I guess there's more honest to God adults right now than I'm giving credit to.
No, we definitely have more than we have kid characters, but I also think it would be a mistake for them to call them the Young Avengers. They should just use the Champions name. I think if they use Young Avengers, I feel like if they use Young Avengers, it'll have the thing that you said with New Avengers, where people will look at it and go like, "Oh, that's like a dumb spin-off."
Or worse, oh, that's just for kids.
Yeah,
I don't want to go to that because it's an all ages comic, right?
Exactly.
You know, it'd be like if you made a Pet Avengers movie.
Mm-hmm. We had
which
like
they should do.
Said, these people are also getting older.
Well, that's a terrific point too.
By the time this Young Avengers project happens, they'll be the middle-aged Avengers.
Avengers has such a weird status quo in the MCU that I think gets overlooked sometimes. Like, by Infinity War, the Avengers had officially broken up, and they come back together kind of officially during the blip, but then after that, there's been no Avengers. So, like, even at the dawn of superheroes, you have a lot of years where there's no Avengers, more than you have years where there's Avengers.
But even before that, it's like the first Avengers movie happens, then the Phase 2 movies, I think, act like they're not, the Avengers still. Like, the second movie will be where they come back together, and then you get to the second movie, and it's like, oh yeah, we've just been the Avengers this whole time.
Yeah,
so
we've got all these Avengers.
Yeah.
Well, at least, unlike Nolan Batman, they were allowed to go on some adventures off screen. That's good.
Yeah, but it was like destroying Hydra bases.
Yeah. So, well, okay, but then at least you can't complain that you didn't get to see anything cool they did.
That is true.
I am checking.
That's where I imagine all of the cool Iron Man villains that I love are. They were just hiding out in those Hydra bases.
But yeah, I feel like at this point, there's so many superheroes running around. It looks kind of suspicious and goofy that there's not an official Avengers team. Even if they're not making movies yet, you'd think, and the Avengers as an idea in that universe is so popular, and there's like merchandise that Miss Marvel is buying and stuff, and there's no Avengers team. Like, why? You have so many superheroes.
That's why I feel like the next one should be the New Avengers. Is like then you have like these new characters come together, and you kind of do like a soft reboot Avengers thing. You don't have to do it like as simple of a movie as that was, because we've been around the block, but something like these new characters come together.
Yeah, but it's gonna look kind of contrived at this point, no matter what they do with it.
Yeah.
You get to the end of the Marvels.
It's the hole they dug themselves in, though.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But like, you get to the end of the Marvels, and Miss Marvel shows up to Kate Bishop, and she's like, "I'm putting together a team just like Nick Fury," and I'm like, "Why hasn't anybody done this before now, though?"
When you get stuff like the ending of Shang-Chi, like the after credits scene with Hulk and Captain Marvel, also makes it seem like the Avengers are a thing. But then other projects makes it seem like they aren't really right now.
Well, and this is one thing that has been consistent about the MCU going all the way through, whether people want to give it, you want to admit it or not. A lot of these individual projects have never been totally clear on what the overall status quo is.
That is true. But I think what we're missing is like a Civil War, like a movie where we kind of see like, okay, this is the status quo for what this team is.
Yeah.
Even if it's just like, hey, there isn't an Avengers right now.
Well, and I mean, that wouldn't be a bad thing to do in a miniseries.
Mm-hmm. But like Captain America 4 could be that, maybe. Who knows? Because
but as
Captain
you keep saying,
America
that looks more like a Hulk movie than anything.
That is true, but like most of that's just in the villains. Like you could also have him leading a team. Like we know, what's her name? The Israeli superhero Sabra, something like that is in that movie.
I just know Harrison Ford's in it and has no idea what the movie is. That's all I know.
And he likes to say, "Let's shoot this stuff." Yeah.
While at the same time you've got your lead star right next to him going, "Cut the check."
Dude, I cannot wait for the press tour for that movie, just to see Harrison Ford be like, "Yeah, I don't care about these movies."
I've never seen one.
Yeah, well, it's like, have you ever watched any of the press tour stuff from the Ant-Man movies with Michael Douglas?
Yeah, I saw a couple of those. He's getting paid.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that, but Harrison Ford already has that with so many things. Like, I'm just excited to see that. He's got like a very good cranky energy that I like.
Yeah, no, it's fun, and you just gotta wonder why at his age, like, he's taking those jobs. Like, he doesn't need to. He has no investment in them. He doesn't want to talk. You would think no matter how much money they throw at him, he would avoid it. He's also a very private person. So it's entirely possible that he has like really good reasons for wanting even more money than he has right now. And I don't mean anything like weird or dicey, but just for his family or whatever it is.
He's got to buy more planes.
You would think, okay, maybe so, yeah, but you would think he needs another helicopter. But you would think that Harrison Ford, hating having to do press tours and interviews, and B, just wanting to go home, because he said that before. Have you seen that interview where it's like if you had the dial of destiny and you could go anywhere, where would you? He goes, "I'd go home. I haven't been home in so long."
No, I'm just excited for the interviews where
you'd think that guy would not care about how much he was getting paid, and he would just go home and do carpentry. Like, you'd think that's what he was doing.
No, he does this for us, Cap, because he knows that we want to see interviews where they're like, "Hey, what are your favorite Red Hulk stories?" And he's like, "I don't know what the hell that means."
Jokes on that part. Why would you ever ask Harrison Ford about comic books? Like,
what
a preposterous thing to ask that man.
The greatest Homecoming interview I saw was with Keaton, where they were like, were you a big fan of the Vulture before you took on this role? And he was like, "Look, I was Batman. I barely know who the Joker is. Do you honestly think I knew who the Vulture is?"
Yeah. And what's really funny is I want to make like a supercut of actors in interviews trying to understand what the multiverse is. because there's several of them. Like
When you could do that, just
no
do it.
actor past the age of 50 gets interviewed about the multiverse and has any idea what you're talking about after making a whole movie about it.
Yeah, I saw an interview with Michael Shannon the other day where he was talking about how confused he was getting the call for the Flash.
Yeah,
and his
I've
agent
seen
was
that.
like, "Yeah, no, it's the multiverse." He was like, "Yeah, I don't know what that means."
I don't know what that means. And like a movie with that concept won the Oscar for Best Picture, and I guarantee you these people still have no idea what that means. Teddy,
That was awesome.
$20 super chat. Here's how MCU can win me over. A horror anthology series where Deadpool takes the role of the Crypt Keeper, and this is very specific, and the episodes are all random horror stories, with Deadpool being the only thing connecting it to the MCU.
You have me up until Deadpool.
Yeah. Austin hates Deadpool.
I would love just a blanket Adventures into Fear show. And especially I would love a Man-Thing show that's just an anthology show. But absolutely do that. Don't make Deadpool the like connecting thing of that show.
What I wish is that when Feige greenlit stuff like what was the horror like one and done
Werewolf by Night.
Werewolf by Night. Sorry, when he greenlit that and did the Guardians Christmas special, it would have been cool. Like I like the idea of doing like one-off specials like that. But it'd be nice if they would do an anthology thing like that, and not just for horror, but for mystery and other stuff. It looked like WandaVision in the first place was like a really cool like hodgepodge, like middle ground thing, where it would be like these these episodic things throwing back to different sitcoms, but then overall would have a story, and like it sort of was that, but it went to standard MCU too quickly for my taste, where it seemed like too afraid of losing people, and I wish they'd kind of looked at what was popular about that show and kind of stuck to that. And I would think that what I'm saying is the response to WandaVision should have made you go, you know what, we should just make an anthology show.
Just make Marvel premiere, like what that comic was back in the day. And you could even introduce characters like Moon Knight in that, like we did originally.
Well, I think a Marvel team-up show would be really cool.
Yeah,
like each maybe they need to be a little longer. Maybe the episodes have to be like an hour and a half longer. Like they're all 2-parters. But and maybe it would be too damn expensive. But like do Marvel team up and just take 2 characters and put them on a low key adventure with a hyphen, not the character Loki.
With Marvel team up, I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to that, but the main thing I want is like some sort of Marvel premiere show where it's like,
yeah,
I mean, that was the way to do it with a lot of these side characters that hadn't really had anything, like Rhodey or even Falcon and Bucky.
And look, I don't mean to not give them their due. What If was a perfect idea, and I was so excited that they were doing that, and the concepts were just like not creative enough, most of them, and not really what I want. And say whatever you want to about the animation, like if the stories had been better, if the writing was better, I wouldn't care. And if the whole thing didn't have to culminate into a big event at the end, like I wouldn't care so much. And I liked what it looked like better than some people did. But yeah. Like that wasn't the problem with that show for me.
No, absolutely. I mean, it's mostly on just how bad a lot of the writing is. If I could meet anyone that's worked on the MCU, it would be the head writer of What If, just to ask why they hate both Thanos and Star-Lord so much.
Yeah. Well, that's an infamous move now. Like, people make fun of that all the time.
Yeah, I think Thanos has died like 8 times at this point. I think it's actually like 6, but in What If, and we've had like 2 episodes about how much Star-Lord sucks.
Well, yeah, because I was going to say, and you're remembering that better than me because it didn't stick with me, but I was just going to say specifically the, like, T'Challa just, like, has a little speech to Thanos, and then he doesn't you disappear half the universe, and people thought that was preposterous because it was.
Yeah, well, and then season 2 has an episode that's like, what if Kid Peter Quill fought the Avengers?
Don't tell me anything yet, though, because I have not looked
No,
at
that's like a title. But I'm just.
I know, no, but I haven't looked at the premises. I don't know what any of it is. And I'm gonna do blind commentaries because I wanted to go in completely blind and not even know what the setups were. So don't tell me any others because I don't want to know. And like, there's a couple that I probably know from like a year ago or something, but like I've slept since then. I won't remember when I get into the video. So I just thought it would be fun going in not even knowing what the premise was, so that when they're lame, I can go on camera.
I made that up. That's not a real premise.
That might be entertaining. I won't remember it by tomorrow. I heard kid something. I don't even know what you were talking about. Anyway, Teddy, thanks a ton for the $20 super chat. You're awesome, and really appreciate the support. Let me see if I've missed any other super chats real quick, and then we can see if there's any other.
Yeah, there is a couple.
Oh, I'm sorry. I missed a couple even before that $20 super chat because it just jumped down on me. So sorry about that. Let me get back to where Super Billy is because he left a couple. Okay, we have several to get through here.
Yeah, he's got Super Billy's got two $5 ones
and
here.
And it won't let me scroll up any farther, so I'm hoping that that's where I left off.
Super Billy, because I remember seeing it at the time.
Okay, thanks, man. $5 super chat. Thanks a ton. Maybe put the multiverse saga on the back burner for a while. The stakes don't get much higher than Cataclysm that affects all of reality. Well, that's just kind of a comic book problem in general, but I think they're kind of stuck with it, because they've been making such a big deal out of it being a saga. I'm with you. It would be, but I think it would have been nice if throughout this we just sprinkled in more stories that didn't have to do with that, like in movies. Because we've had TV shows that don't have anything to do with the multiverse saga. I just haven't liked them.
Yeah, and we've had movies like Shang-Chi and stuff that haven't, but. Especially like in the last little bit, even I guess the Marvels is a connection to that.
Yeah, it does.
But the thing that breaks my heart the most...
What's weird about it though is there are a lot of movies or I guess I should just say stories in general where it's just a coincidence that we happen to be touching the multiverse. Like with Thanos, it was Infinity Stones are everywhere. I guess some of that was maybe a little bit coincidental too, that we kept running into him before he did. So maybe it's the same consistent level of coincidence. But with multiverse, it's not because of Kang or any big threat. It's just now that we're dealing with multiverse, we keep running into different dimensions. But maybe you could say this works out even a little bit better than the Infinity Stone thing does, just because prior to Loki, there wasn't a multiverse, and then time gets remade so that there is a multiverse. So maybe it makes sense that we would start now running into dimensions, and we just didn't see any of that before because time got remade. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. The thing that upsets me the most, though, is like a little bit ago, it came out that Disney released several trademarks they had, and one of them was the Eternity Saga, and I'm like, man, if we had that instead of the multiverse, that'd be so much better.
Now, I agree with him that it's hard to go up from there because the stakes are so massive, and the instinct is to keep ramping it up and trying to get bigger and bigger. But I think the risk that should be taken post, assuming there's not a full-on reboot, post-multiverse saga is really reel it in now and don't have a saga next time. Don't have a saga at all next time.
It'll be the mutant saga, Cap. We all know it's coming. True.
Hey, speaking of that, we need to talk about the FF and the X-Men elephant in the room, but I want to take a quick break before we do that. So everybody give me just a couple of minutes, and I'll be right back. Hey everybody, I am back. Just waiting for Austin when he gets back, and then we will finish this discussion. I don't know how much longer we're going to go here, but there are some more super chats we're going to have to tackle. And I want to talk about X-Men and Fantastic Four and how, and also Daredevil, how, the quality of those things might affect Disney and Marvel's interest in rebooting. Because if those don't go really well, I could see that being a thing they start to really consider, because they've got to be thinking, okay, well, we still have this in our back pocket. Like, a lot of the stuff we've been releasing lately, people aren't super interested in. Things haven't been performing very well, but people are waiting with bated breath, at least for X-Men, to finally get a return in the movies, and for comic fans to see something maybe more, true to form from the comics, more straight off the page. And I don't know if that's what we'll get, but I don't want to get too far into this until we see Austin. But I keep thinking Daredevil has got to perform. Like, those seem like the three things that people are really, like, holding out hope for still. And if you don't nail Daredevil, I feel like you might as well pack your bags and go home when it comes to the Disney Plus side of things. And so probably smart that they scrapped a lot of what they had, and that they're basically starting over with that show. I still haven't heard I don't know if any news has come out about this. I still haven't heard who they're bringing in to showrun that, or write on it, or anything. But I'm going to see what some comments are saying. Not super chats yet. I'll scroll back up and do that as soon as Austin comes back. I should have waited for him, but a lot of the time when I come back from a break, I won't see Austin yet, and then he'll just pop up on the screen like he was waiting for me. So that's kind of what I thought will happen here. Let's see. Oh, there he is. Hello. Oh, he's eating. He doesn't want to tick off everybody by eating on camera. We know how much our audience loves it when we eat on camera.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting you to be back so quick. Sorry.
No, that's okay. My apologies. Plushy DX says they have a showrunner. Do they have a Hulk? They have a Hulk.
You beat me by like 2 seconds because I was drinking.
Deal with it. Okay, Austin, before we get to super chats, let me ask you if you agree with the idea that I just posited, that Daredevil and X-Men and Fantastic Four, maybe to a lesser degree, just because it hasn't had, a good track record on film, and a lot of, like, regular moviegoers that aren't comic people don't expect Fantastic Four movies to be good. But I feel like those three things are the big holdouts. Like, that's the stuff that could really turn this around for people if they do it right. And if they don't, that's when they start thinking about a reboot.
Yeah, in terms of killing their TV side, it'll be Daredevil, and in terms of killing their movies, it'll be X-Men. Fantastic Four, if it's bad, I think it'll hurt them a lot, but like you said, they have a track record of being bad on film, so I don't think it'll hurt them as bad as if X-Men is.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping fourth time is really the charm there. It's pretty hilarious that it's been attempted 3 times now.
No, and the only good one is the Roger Corman one that wasn't made to be released.
Yeah. And I mean,
Nuts.
It's not great, but it feels like a Fantastic Four thing. And there's an actual kind of story in it. It's silly, but it's at least not the Fantastic Four get their powers and then they have powers.
Yeah, exactly. I watched a video the other day that was talking about like the original script for Fantastic, and it was crazy. I don't know how much you've looked into that.
It's been a long time. I talked about some of that, I think, when I did Script the Rewind a long time ago, but
it had like Mole Man, Annihilus, Doctor Doom, Galactus, like just all this stuff.
Good Lord.
And I was like, oh my God.
That sounds like fan fiction.
When it's funny too, because I remember when they cast Tim Blake Nelson, who played the leader in Incredible Hulk, because they announced him as being cast as Mole Man, and then when the movie came out, they like changed his name. So I guess that's just one of those things that changed with a lot of the rewrites.
That's interesting. And has that script ever been leaked?
I assume so from the video I was watching. The sense I got was they'd read the script, but that's putting trust on somebody.
See, I always go back and forth on this, where I want to do more videos on unmade scripts, but then that stuff has all been documented so well by like other polished channels now.
Which is why we need to do the silver and black one, Cap, because nobody's talked about the silver and black.
Okay, all right, we can do that. But I guess what a lot of people do is just sort of breakdowns. It would be fun to like actually full on review them, because I don't feel like a lot of people are
like a group and do a readout too. Would be fun.
Ooh, that'd be good. That'd be some easy content we could generate that nobody else is doing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's do that. We got to stop showing our hand, man. We're showing everybody how to make content that people might actually watch, but like really lazily with no actual. Look, I gotta do kid at home, folks. I don't have time to read and plan things.
But hey, if we do, I don't know, like a David Goyer Ghost Rider. I'm trying to think of just like unmade scripts that exist, and it's as fun as the Rewind script reading we did. I think it would be some solid content.
But we should do that. We should find some people that. I was gonna say that read well. It would be fun to do it with people that don't read well. Also, it really just depends on what it is. But yeah. So getting back to the whole Fantastic Four X-Men thing, I think the best thing that could happen, and this won't happen, but if I think the best situation would be they try X-Men, they put Daredevil out, it falls flat. They try X-Men, that falls flat. They haven't gotten to FF yet, and at the point that they finally decided to reboot, they're able to reboot with FF in the first place, and they haven't mucked it up yet. That would be the best situation for the MCU still doesn't know what they're doing, and then they hire the right people after that. That is not a permutation I can see actually happening. But
yeah, and I mean, I want to have faith in that Fantastic Four movie because I like the director that's making it well enough. But I also don't trust Marvel, so it's like
there has to be a part of you that is worried that they will lose that director sometime in this process.
I mean, it's already lost a director, so yeah.
And also, what Marvel project in the last 5 years hasn't? Guardians 3, that's the one. No Way Home.
And even Guardians 3 is iffy.
What you mean because he got fired entirely?
He did lose him, and then they got him back.
That history is so insane. That changes the entire trajectory of this whole genre.
Mm-hmm.
Just his getting canceled the way he did.
Yep.
That's
crazy.
What would DCEU be doing? Like, you might have had the same history where they finally decide to go back to the drawing board and they hire somebody to run the whole thing, but it couldn't have been Gunn. Mm-hmm. And maybe Marvel would be in a better place. Maybe Gunn would be making even some other things for them that aren't Guardians movies. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, he's pitched a ton of stuff to Marvel, so maybe he would be doing some of that. Like, maybe he would be doing Thunderbolts. Who knows?
Yeah. Okay, let's get back to the super chat. Super Billy, $5. Yeah. That being said, don't jettison Kang and replace him with Doom, which has been a rumor, but there's no reason to think that they've... And in fact, I think they've come out and said, finally, that was never in the cards.
Yeah, I've heard that. I don't know if they've officially said it, but I have heard that, which wouldn't surprise me.
He says...
My whole thing with that is just that...
Sorry, I just wanted to finish reading the super chat. He says, no, you're okay. He says, just recast and give us a singular version we can gradually get invested in.
My whole thing with that is they shouldn't be making Secret Wars. Like, Secret Wars is a Doctor Doom story. both the original and the one that they're actually adapting.
Well, here's what's weird. And again, all we can talk about is rumors because there haven't been a lot of like official statements, so everything with a grain of salt. But there's been a lot of talk that while Doom was not supposed to be a replacement for Kang, he is supposed to be a secondary villain in Secret Wars. That he'll be there, he's just not the main villain.
Yeah, and that's just wrong to me. Like, Doctor Doom,
I agree,
the main villain of Secret Wars. Like, if you're not gonna make him it would be like if they did Infinity Gauntlet and Annihilus was the villain to me. Like, I get that it's probably not as far off with that, because it's still Thanos with the Infinity Gauntlet, and you kind of weren't gonna get away from that with Infinity War. But I don't know. Like, it's like I don't really want to see Secret Wars with Kang as the villain instead of Doom.
Well, it's sort of like, it'd be weird if they did this. It's sort of like if Tony Stark built Ultron.
Yes.
It's an odd notion. I don't know why you do that, but it just came to me. I don't know.
No, exactly.
What would be even weirder is if you then introduced Hank Pym in the very next movie you put out.
Or if
it had nothing to do with Ultron.
Or if 5 of Spider-Man's main villains came from a different universe and didn't exist in the same world that he did.
Yeah, and if you made 2 Venom movies, and then he showed up in a Spider-Man continuity that had nothing to do with him from another universe at the end of a film because of Peter Parker's name, it'd be really weird if you did that.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Played out, $10 super chat. Thanks a lot for the support. There's been an argument that people don't turn out to watch movie stars, but Evans, Downey, and Hemsworth were so perfectly cast as the Avengers Trinity, they would be all but impossible to replace. That's a really good point. It's almost, I don't know if this is the right way to put it, it's almost like a chicken and the egg thing where it's like, there's the argument that people don't turn out for movie stars over like the characters they play. That's the big thing, the big quote from I'm sorry, I'm blanking on names today. Sam Wilson, Anthony Mackie, where he's like, people don't come to see me, they come to see the character I play. They come to see Falcon. But how much of that is because, as played out, is suggesting the performance in the first place? So like, they don't come to see that star, but they do come to see that star, all at the same time.
Well, I think with those 3 characters specifically, it's hard to tell because for the general public, that's the reason they're into that. Well, with something like Spider-Man and Batman, it's much broader.
Yeah, like most people already had some kind of a connection with Batman and Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, exactly.
I mean, you could make the case that this was true with Christopher Reeve. That, like, Christopher Reeve was Superman for people, and then he did some other movies after that none of them were huge. So, like, it wasn't like everybody was turning out in droves to see Christopher Reeve because he played Superman, unless he was playing Superman. So, I mean, it's the same thing.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely.
50 years ago.
Well, that's just because Christopher Reeve is Superman.
Right. Teddy, and so that's an isolated case, it's the exception that proves the rule. Teddy, $5 super chat. Thanks a lot for all the support tonight, buddy. He says most likely, but they probably should. Oh no, that was in the middle of a conversation that we had a while back. See,
that was about our bet. He's talking about them replacing Kang.
Yeah, I think they will. I just don't think he'll be as big as he was supposed to be. I think they'll pivot somewhere in there.
They'll announce the title and it'll just be Avengers Annihilation.
It'll be called
to do with the multiverse. It'll just be
okay, but how about this? Avengers: Dynasty.
Oh, there we go.
It's a mystery. We don't know whose dynasty it is. It's a big mystery.
Well, that'll be the big snap level cliffhanger. Is Kang will come in and be like, "It was my dynasty."
And the dynasty trigger holder is a mystery. Teddy put in another $20. Oh, no, I'm sorry. That was the $20 super chat I read already. Let's move on and see if there are any others that I have not read past that. Teddy, $10 super chat. To be fair, I actually like the idea of characters coincidentally dealing with multiverse all over. I just wish there was a reason for it, if that makes sense. And like I said, there sort of kind of is, but it's convoluted.
Mm-hmm.
They tried to...
Part of it is also that, like...
Yeah.
Things like got switched up. Like, the original plan for No Way Home makes more sense when it was supposed to come out after Doctor Strange, but then they had to like muddle it up a little bit when it had to come out before it. You get stuff like that.
Yeah, and the order of things has also been changing a lot lately. In a way
which
that
isn't an issue we had before.
That's right.
I think one of the biggest things is because obviously, you know, the Infinity Saga isn't perfect, but I think it really makes you appreciate just how well things kind of came into place when you see just how, you know, badly it can go wrong.
Well, it's really weird. Like, I have a hard time articulating some of the issues I've been having with MCU sometimes because it feels like simultaneously part of the problem is that we're not just making cool projects and you can go, you know, cherry pick each thing you want to see because it feels like they're still telling you need to see everything, but at the same time it also feels like it's throwing a bunch of stuff at the wall to see what it'll stick. Like, those two things don't feel like they should go together, but it has both problems.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
So let's so we're past 2 hours and we've I think finished up super chats. There were some really good comments with discussion that I wanted to talk about from the very beginning of the show, but I can't see those comments anymore, and we're already at 2 hours. So let's do a little bit in the way of predictions. So first of all, just with this initial idea, Austin, what do you think the odds are that there is an eventual full-on reboot? Like, do you think, let's say 10 years from now, MCU, I mean, if they're in the same place they are right now or worse, they'll probably just close up shop, like, well before that. But let's say they limp along for another, like, 10 years, and they get to a place where, you know, they've slashed budgets, and they're still putting stuff out. They're making less than they were. It's for a smaller niche audience, but they still feel like they just aren't making enough money. Do they reboot, or do they just close up shop?
You threw a wrench when I was going to say with the close up shop part. With that, it's harder to say. I think them full on rebooting. I think they will look at what happens with DC and then go from there.
Yeah.
If that fails, I don't think they'll try it. I think they'll try to just keep limping along. And if it goes well, and like things don't improve for them, I think they will probably try to reboot.
What do you think will happen to the Disney Plus side of all this? I mean, again, some of that it has to hinge on Daredevil.
Mm-hmm. These are all hard questions. What do I think will happen with the Disney Plus side?
Here's your blue book test, Austin.
Well, they're finally hiring showrunners, so I guess we'll see with that. But I hope we get
that's new.
Point.
That's new rules. Of the Writers Guild. They have to.
I know. That's what it took for them to realize they need showrunners.
Yeah, legality.
Bad. I mean, I would hope they just stop making shows and focus on the theater. I don't think Marvel will hit the place Star Wars does, where, you know, Star Wars hit a point where it went to TV and couldn't get back into the theater, just because nobody likes any of their shows enough, I think, for that to happen.
Yeah, because they had that surprise hit with Mandalorian, and they went, "Oh, that's the ticket now. We'll just oversaturate like we are with Marvel and put way too many shows out." And you have never seen an audience lose interest or turn on a thing as fast as they did Mandalorian.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That was nuts. You're still seeing Baby Yoda stuff selling, and nobody that's buying that is watching that show. I question how many people that were buying it in the first place had ever seen an episode of that show.
I mean, there's a lot of like grandmas around that are like, I like this, it's cute, I'm gonna buy it. But I don't know, I jumped ship on Mandalorian before most people did, so
I couldn't remember if you even tried it.
yeah, I watched the first season, and then like every announcement for season 2 made me go, okay, yeah, I have no interest in this, and
that's fair.
I dropped it. I also don't love season 1. I think season 1 is just okay. But
yeah, I have a hard time not just comparing it to the other things, the other movies they made, and going, well, this feels more authentic. Like, I was liking it for a lot of it was for the potential of where I thought it could go. And when they put out a third season and they still aren't doing anything with Grogu, I'm like, okay, I don't care anymore. Like, stop it. I was like, the fact that you haven't started aging him up yet or anything, that's preposterous.
I was fully prepared to keep watching in the hopes that it would become more of what I wanted. But it was when season 2 became the springboard for spin-offs that I went, okay, yeah, like, no, I'm out.
Well, it was getting awkward because it's like, oh, now we got the Mandalorian universe, which is in the Star Wars universe, but now everybody's wondering if it really is, because it does make sense to kind of retcon or ignore Skywalker saga. I mean, 7, 8, and 9. And,
well, I think from what I've heard, season 3 starts to set up stuff from the sequels.
Oh,
so
great! So it all fits like a glove.
Well, as I said to I think Dan the other day, Star Wars will never always fit because even the prequels don't fit.
Yeah,
but
that's true.
That's Star Wars for you.
So yeah, it's a lot of question marks right now. Obviously, if if they keep trying the Disney Plus thing, honestly, for me, there's a big question as to how long Disney Plus is going to last, because they seem to just be hemorrhaging money monthly with that.
I don't think any streaming service is profitable.
Yeah.
So. Who knows?
Like, what is the model going to be in 5 years?
But with something like Disney, I think they're able to kind of balance it off where, you have like the theme parks and whatnot. So just because you have this one section that's, with streaming that's maybe not turning in a giant profit, you can kind of balance it off a little bit more. Like I think I've heard Amazon talk about that. But what do I know about business?
Well, but the problem with Disney right now is they're losing money in every sector.
Mm-hmm. No,
because the theme parks are apparently also losing money.
Mm-hmm. No, and like I said at the start of the show, like they made one film this year that didn't bomb. So,
yeah, that's nuts.
I know, it's crazy. We're only 4 years after 2019, where they had like 6 movies make $1 billion.
Played Out says that I missed a super chat from him.
Yeah, I saw that. I was looking up, and
can you help me find it?
all I could see was that one that you read about the actors.
Yeah, I did read that.
So unless there's one that I can't see above that,
there's one toward the bottom here that it's not actually letting me look at, which is weird.
Whoa, what the heck?
And I also read the one that he said about characters coincidentally dealing with multiverse. I read that one too. Was there a third one?
I don't know. Play it out. Just tell us what it is in the chat, and I'll keep an eye.
Yeah. Just copy it in there and don't leave another super chat. We'll read it when we see it.
Yeah.
But
okay. Apparently, Elemental didn't bomb.
No, that had a weird kind of slow crawl to success, where like it looked like it was gonna bomb, and then I guess word of mouth was good.
Mhm.
I haven't seen it, so I got no dog on that. But
Yeah, I haven't either. I just knew it was doing poorly, like when it started, but I
plus,
guess
DX, I
it
don't think
did
theme
okay.
parks are actually unprofitable. Is that a rumor? I don't know. I mean, again, grain of salt. None of this stuff do I have real numbers for or anything. I've been hearing people lately talking about how even the theme parks aren't turning a profit. So I don't know if there's any or are losing money or whatever. I don't know how true that is.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm not a
'Cause I wouldn't
journalist. I've
think
not
so.
done my own research on this.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so, but who knows?
Okay, the other question I wanted to ask you is moving
Yes.
forward, your prediction for. But before we get to Secret Wars and inevitably we finally just bring back all the characters people really care about, because you know that's coming,
Mhm.
who are the 2 or 3 most potentially bankable newer characters if only they would tell good stories with them? So forgetting people don't care right now. Who are the characters with real potential
That are introduced post Endgame.
that have been introduced post Endgame?
Oh. Hmm.
Austin's
Here.
done with the channel tonight. He's like, I didn't know there was going to be a quiz. This is hard.
I don't. The first thing that went to my mind is Hercules for some reason. Like just because we haven't really done anything with him.
I keep forgetting he was even in anything.
Yeah. I know everyone will say Shang-Chi, but out of spite, I refuse to say that.
Yeah, I mean, I think he could have some potential. Maybe I also could see a second movie just completely tanking.
No,
The
and I
same way
could too.
Shazam did, because again, I think that there was some real goodwill left still when that first movie came out, and I don't want to judge everything by merchandising, but
Mhm.
I can't help but look at the movies that still to this day I see merchandise on the shelf at big box stores in the mall and stuff and go, when those get sequels, nobody's going to care. Like, there's Shang-Chi merchandise did not move. Like, the movie did
Mhm.
okay at the box office. Nobody bought stuff for it. That makes me nervous about like seeing anything else from it in the future. Same thing with Wakanda Forever. It's like when they do a Wakanda show or they do like a Black Panther 3, which has not been announced. I don't know if or when they'll try to do that. Um, like they couldn't sell merchandise for it. I don't know. Makes you
Mhm.
wonder. Then again, Aquaman did $1 billion, and I saw a lot of merchandise not move for that movie.
Well, now like really sold overseas. Like I don't think it did super well domestically compared to like the $1 billion, obviously.
Right. And that's the thing is I just don't know what exactly that number is. I would have to go back in and look and see what domestically it did.
Yeah. I don't. Do you have an answer on this? Because I'm like going through everything, and it's like, like I don't know. I don't see, Moon Knight or Kate Bishop, Hawkeye, or Miss Marvel being, giant money makers. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think that's what the Disney Plus side should be there for, is for them to be able to have their own stories told.
Yeah,
And then I don't know if I'm just blank. Like I also don't see Eternals turning around and being like a super profitable team.
no, I don't either. And they're not going to try it after the response to that movie.
Yeah, and then
But
there's characters like Black Knight or something, who we only saw him as a person, but like I don't see that as being a like $800 million movie. You know what I mean?
before
I guess the answer is Blade. It's Blade.
I engage you with that, let me go to the comments for a second because people are fighting me on the merchandising thing. And Jareth Gerhardt says people just don't like stuff as much anymore, more about experiences. If and that is overall true. However, there is still this kind of correlation where movies that are huge and that have toyetic quality and that kids actually care about, the stuff is moving. like, so Shang-Chi stuff stayed there forever. Eternal stuff stayed there forever. No Way Home, like, I don't see this, and especially Spider-Verse, like, those toys left the shelves. So some of that stuff still sells. Like, if that were the case, you would see all these toys from really successful movies that kids actually cared about. Like, you just wouldn't see anything moving on shelves at all. That doesn't happen. Stuff does still sell. Maybe not like it used to. They couldn't give away toys for the Ninja Turtles movie. Like, that movie was liked okay, but kids didn't care. And it didn't do super well at the box office. Yeah, they can't give that stuff away.
That sounds weird to me. I don't know. Unkillable John Kelling gives the best answer.
I don't think
question, by the way.
I also don't think that's an aesthetic that appeals as well to kids. Like, that movie was made for it feels to me a somewhat older audience, and then they merchandised it just like they were a Turtle show. I don't think it was kids that turned out for that movie.
I don't know, because it's that kind of style. I feel like is kind of in vogue right now with like the last Puss in Boots movie and the Spider-Verse stuff.
Yeah, the like the style of animation, but the character models, like, I don't know. I'm just going by what I saw. People aren't buying that stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. I have no dog in Turtles.
I just don't think past 2012 Nickelodeon has known how to sell that property to kids. Because they also went with an animation style that's been very in vogue lately for that last show that only went 2 seasons and had a Netflix movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Good old gamer, those turtles are ugly though too. Yes, they are. Exactly.
But Unkillable John Kelling gives the best answer to your question, which is the most profitable character post-Endgame is clearly Madison from She-Hulk.
I don't even know who that is anymore. Who's that?
That's the it's not what you think character.
Oh, yeah. No, they should make toys of her. Marvel's Madison.
I would buy that, yeah. Hell yeah. Release Marvel's Madison as a movie.
Jared says he wasn't trying to argue. I mean, you're welcome to argue. That's fine, but no worries. I'm just saying that there are definitely some things that do better than others on toy shelves. If he was full on right about that, you just wouldn't see anything ever move.
Mm. But it is definitely a factor. Kids just don't like toys as much as they used to in older generations, but
yeah,
like you said, some of it moves.
It's also important to note that there's this gray area where adults are children now, and us collectors buy that stuff ourselves. So if the thing is popular, the adults will buy it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I don't know.
All I know is there is a landfill somewhere with like 8 billion Eternals toys.
Yeah. Well, and also just secondhand stores.
Yes.
So and like aftermarket stores. Anyway, to go back to the question I asked you, and then you tossed it back in my direction. I have a bias with this, I guess, but I feel like if you did it right and you gave her her own movie, the answer to this really should be Kate Bishop. And I know you said you didn't think that with her, but like, it's really well acted. And that character seems potentially interesting to me. Like moving forward for movies and stuff. I still say they should have given her her own movie instead of a TV show. I think she'd be popular right now.
I like that character. I think Hawkeye is like a joke character for a lot of people. I don't know that a Hawkeye movie sells. Is all I think about it. But I like Kate Bishop.
I just think it depends on what story you tell and what those trailers look like. Because Hawkeye doesn't have to be a joke character.
No, but like I just mean like a joke character in the sense that Hawkeye's like the main, like one of the main Avengers that the general audience doesn't take seriously.
Yeah, but
I just don't think a Hawkeye movie would sell.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's all in how you pitch it. The problem is, Black Widow came out at a weird time, so we'll never know what that would have actually done at the box office, and that would have told you something about this. Also, aside
But
that,
Black Widow's way more popular than Hawkeye is.
yeah, is that true? I guess I don't know that for sure.
100%. Yeah. Nobody was begging for a Hawkeye movie. There were a lot of people begging for a Black Widow movie.
Yeah, but how much of that was just you've got one like female Avenger and you're not giving her her own movie?
People also did really like that character. Like, Black Widow has a role in a lot of Marvel movies. Hawkeye's main role was he was hypnotized through the first movie. And he gets a bigger role in the second movie. Not as many people liked, and a lot of people complained that the family stuff is boring, and doesn't do anything in Civil War, isn't even in Infinity War, and has a better story, I guess, in Endgame. But like, I don't think anybody cares about Hawkeye.
Well, and like, I wasn't like chomping at the bit for him to get his own solo movie either, but I loved her, and I just feel like if you sold that right, you wouldn't be selling a Hawkeye movie, you'd be selling a Kate Bishop movie.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, it would still be called Hawkeye. Like, that's what you'd have to sell it on.
Yeah, but you'd have you'd have this nice sweet spot where nobody cared about Hawkeye in the first place. You kind of reinvent it, and nobody would really care. Like, I just think the possibility was there to do that. But anyway, that's the closest to a character that I think has the potential to be really popular. I might have said Miss Marvel, but the Marvels didn't perform. So like, I think you're sunk on that now.
Well, and Miss Marvel was like the least watched show. I don't know, maybe Secret Invasion took that, but at least at the time.
And again, I like her fine. I think that is a good performance, but I think when I say potential, I think the ship has sailed with that now because they tried it twice and people didn't bite with it. Kate Bishop is still kind of up in the air to me because the Hawkeye show I think was watched okay, and she hasn't had her own thing yet.
Mm-hmm. The big one, and I didn't say this because you said post-Endgame, and it's weirdly modeled.
Yeah.
And Leo's mentioned it a few times in the chat, is Daredevil. Like, you could make a Daredevil movie and it would make money.
Yeah.
I'm actually kind of surprised they went back to TV. Like, they're doing that because it was a popular show, but I think they would make more money if they went to a Daredevil movie.
Well, and there's also this kind of... I don't know, feeling of desperation that I think is there where they're like, well, we need to keep Daredevil on TV so that we can have other characters related to Daredevil that we can maybe sell on TV. Like you said, it's thought of now as a TV property. So it's like, well, maybe we can sell, the Hawkeye show better if it's got, Kingpin in it.
Mm-hmm.
Not to say that shouldn't have been there. I mean, forget how that was handled. Like, it wasn't a bad idea to get street level all of that and use some of those characters you had already. But I think you're right. I think that is the reason that Daredevil has stuck around on TV.
Yeah, I think some of those characters, like a Daredevil movie, I think would perform. It's never performed before, but if you went low budget, you could maybe get like a good performing Punisher movie. That's in that place of Fantastic Four where people didn't like those other movies.
Well, and that's weird now because Marvel is kind of scared of that character with the social climate now. So like,
but he's also supposed to be in the Daredevil show,
and I don't know how that's gonna work. But like, and I don't know how neutered he's gonna be or whatever because I mean they've gotten rid of Frank Castle in the comics now.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't been keeping up with that, so I don't know. I don't know if that's one of those gimmicky things where they're planning on bringing him back, but everything, the way Vince described it to me, that all kind of smelled of, we don't want people to think about this character anymore. So, I don't know.
I thought I heard recently they were doing some sort of thing with Frank Castle coming back, but it might be something else that I heard. I can't remember.
Or he's taking on some other mantle.
Well, yeah, he was already Ghost Rider.
Well, and I know they made him like the leader of the Hand or whatever, because you got to pull that card out. Smarty Pants tutoring.
That's another one though. Is Ghost Rider could probably make money.
That's another one of those things though where he hasn't before.
But is it also just because the movies were bad? Like that's
That's
another
hard to
thing
say.
that fits the Fantastic Four thing.
Yeah, that's hard to say. That also might feel like a somewhat dated property to people, and it might be difficult to bring that into the modern day, because like Ghost Rider was really popular in the '90s, and that's when he was popular. Like,
Yeah.
so I'm not. I'm not
mean,
sure. I'm not sure what it would take.
yeah. I mean, I think the first movie did pretty well, and then the second didn't. But
Yeah, I don't remember what the
despite
numbers
being awesome,
were on that, but I'll also like, I don't know how well that did compared to Daredevil and stuff. I'd have to go back and look. It's been too long. But I wanted to read this comment from Sorry Pants Tutoring, because this this is related to a point that I meant to make earlier. He says, I wonder minus what if animation could be the thing that draws people. You got X-Men 97 and an animated Spidey show. I think that's the direction Disney Plus should take it more, and they shouldn't be concerned about everything being in the same continuity.
well, I've said since Disney Plus was announced that they should be making just like animated movies adapting Marvel comics for Disney Plus.
Yeah.
And do other cartoons, like do an Avengers cartoon, do a Doctor Strange cartoon, do anything like Fantastic Four
and new characters that never got those, because like Daredevil never got his own animated show.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you could just do like a I don't know what it. I'm getting tired. What is that thing called? Not Marvel Knights. But yeah, you could do like a team up show with like some of the
Midnight Suns.
Midnight Suns. That's what I was trying to think of. Yeah, you could do something like that.
Yeah.
Spirits of Vengeance. You could do a show called Spirits of Vengeance.
Absolutely.
Well, we're at 2.5 hours, and I've asked Austin enough very difficult questions. Do you have any final thoughts for this, Austin? Do you have any big, like, mind-blowing guesses at the future? Predictions?
Eventually everything will end, including the planet, so... No, I don't know.
Well, yes, eventually.
Eventually. Did Play It Out ever give us that chat that we apparently missed?
I never saw it. I'm going to scroll up.
Yeah, I'm scrolling through and I don't see it. I'm like...
Play It Out, I'm really sorry if we did miss a super chat,
about it.
But I couldn't find an extra one from you. I read 2 from him, I think. It's also possible that we talked about it and he missed it, like he got up for some reason or something, but...
That is true. I don't see anything. Anyways,
I feel
do you have
like,
any final predictions?
Well, not a prediction, but I just want to say the only way Marvel can really turn all of this around is if they get some new blood that is creative and loves these characters in the first place and are allowed to adapt stuff from comics and not told to not read them. And if those people are just left alone, they need to take risks. And I know, like, I say that all the time, and that's an easy generic thing now to say, but like the kind of irony with it is they need to do exactly what Feige did with Eternals, where he hired a woman to make that movie and then he got out of her way. And yeah, it wasn't it didn't perform the way they wanted it to, and at the time it was like the lowest rated, I guess, on Rotten Tomatoes or whatever, but it was a step in the right direction in that it was fresh, it felt different. Like somebody said earlier, these things don't have to have the same house style, the same house tone. If they did that, that's the way that you throw stuff at the wall and see if it sticks, right? Is like you just get there needs to be quality control, but you need to not make everything have the same brand of humor, fall in the same story formula, and you need to not make half the movie in a computer before you even put a director on it. And they've made too many movies that way.
No, one of my biggest issues with Eternals is that I think even the way it is, there's still too much of that like MCU-ness in it. But it's a step in the right direction.
Yeah,
At least in terms of like style and tone.
it was inventive. It had some things I hadn't seen from those movies before. There was a scope to it.
Hmm. Yeah, it's at the very least a step in the right direction for some of this.
So yeah, I don't know what the future holds. It's more up in the air than it's ever seemed before. But I think the smartest thing they could do is after this next year take even longer of a break, like push everything back even some more. But I don't think they'll do that.
Yeah, probably not.
Just to get
so
their
much of that
just
is
to get their ducks in a row, like.
Mhm. Yeah, they need to be doing some meetings to flesh some of this stuff out.
And like they are obviously trying to do a lot of house cleaning right now, and you're hearing a lot of stuff from, people on the inside that there's a lot of kind of, running around like chickens with their head cut off. Like it sounds like they're freaking out in there, and that probably needs to happen because it takes them down a peg. They're not seeing themselves as invulnerable anymore.
Oh, I have a question.
And that's a good thing. But real quick, I'll just say, but my worry is, they just rush everything. They act too much like Warner Brothers right after BVS or whatever, and they try to put band-aids on stuff instead of like really fix the infrastructure problems.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Okay, what's your question?
So the director of Avengers Kang Dynasty left. Who do you think should helm the next Avengers movies?
I'm sorry, you mean like writers and director?
You can just say director, but if you have like a specific writer, I guess you can throw it out.
Okay, but you're talking about behind the scenes, not like what character should be in it.
Yeah, no. Like who do you think should direct the next Avengers?
Man, well, that's harder than any question I asked you. I'm thinking. I'm not good at this because see they tend to go to directors that haven't made these kinds of movies before, and sometimes that ends up really working out and sometimes it doesn't. Like I'll say this real quick before I give you an answer. I feel like people are sometimes too quick to judge them on that, where it's like, why did you get somebody that's never made a big special effects movie before? And I'm like, well, the Russos hadn't. Like sometimes that really works out.
Yeah, and they're like a weird middle ground because you can see it from their sitcom work with Community. But like, if you were just looking at that on paper, absolutely.
Yeah, and I get that, but they still hadn't made a project of that scope. Like so
yeah, that size. Yeah.
So if you're really paying attention to their body of work, you get why they were selected. But I think some of their other directors have kind of been that way too, where it's like you can't immediately see it, but then they come in and they do good work. But I don't know. Then again, they just had a lot of kind of stale workman directors where they've again made too many of the decisions before that person even gets there. Mm-hmm. Like the Ant-Man guy.
Yeah, like Peyton agreed. As Connor always calls him.
That's pretty good. I can't remember the director's name, but the first thing that comes to mind is whoever directed Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Oh, the Daniels. When they almost did Loki.
Oh, that's right.
So that's not super far off. And I think they're directing an episode of that John Watts Star Wars show. So that's not like completely out there.
That's not crazy.
Yeah.
And then maybe Raimi, but I just don't know if he's right for that. Like, I want him to do another Marvel thing.
Yeah, I'm in such like a weird like place with that because I would like to see him do a Doctor Strange movie where he gets to, work at it from the start. But I also really want to see Raimi come in and do something original again.
Yeah.
But either way, I'm happy to see Sam Raimi directing again. I'd also be fine if he did like a DC thing as well. I don't know. Like I said, I'm just happy to see Sam Raimi work.
Just happy to be working.
Exactly.
But yeah, that's my answer, I think.
Oh, okay. That's not bad. But only if they do it and they cast the guy who played Short Round as Kang, and he's the recast.
That'd be pretty great.
That'd be awesome.
I mean, there's precedent with Loki for, other interdimensional versions looking nothing at all like the first person. So
Well, that's
you could
like
do
the
that.
biggest hole that Marvel's dug themselves in.
The crazy
is that-
variant thing.
Yeah, is that they made all of the Kangs the same guy.
Even though they didn't have to do that.
No, you could have gotten real crazy with it.
And they've had as much consistency with that whole thing as the Arrowverse did.
Yeah,
Like, it's
that's
really
just-
funny,
yeah.
where it's like, why are there 3 different looking Spider-Mans? I don't know, because that's the movies that got made.
Yeah,
That's the answer.
Kang's consistent. He's always the same.
Daniver says Raimi's doing another Doctor Strange movie, last I heard. I don't know how
I think that's the rumor.
true
Yeah.
that is, because like Austin said, there hasn't even been one officially announced yet. So
Yeah, I think that's kind of the rumor. I don't. He was working on an original horror movie before he jumped onto Doctor Strange. So
before he bailed them out.
yeah, so like I kind of want to see what that was supposed to be,
Sure.
but like yeah, I'd like to see him do another Doctor Strange.
I still say it would be really novel to see him come back now and do the next Spider-Man. Like, I don't have to have that, but if that was announced, I'd be curious. I'd be super curious.
Yeah, yeah.
Although-
I don't think there's any way you would do the Tom Holland for.
No, I mean, if they did that, I guess the only thing anybody would be interested in is his doing, his own Spider-Man 4 finally.
Well, that's what he's come out and said. Is all I mean. But
Oh, did he say that?
yeah, because people asked him, they were like, would you do Spider-Man 4 for the MCU? And he was like, no, I would never do Spider-Man without Tobey.
Wow.
So yeah, because I would be interested to see like what his Spider-Man with Tom Holland would look like, but I don't think he would do it.
Well, and there was a time where I never thought I would have any interest in the decades later, Raimi, Tobey Maguire sequel, but after No Way Home, which I overall didn't care for, I would actually kind of be okay with it now. Like, do I want to see that over other things he might make? Not really, Austin, but like, I personally was really impressed with Maguire's performance in that. And I think he, middle-aged now, might have a really cool angle on it. Like, I'm way more interested in the Spider-Man 4 right now than I was in 07 after 3.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Way more interested in that now. And I'll even go as far as to say, and I can't even believe I'm saying this, I'm more interested in a Tobey Maguire Spider-Man right now than I am a Tom Holland Spider-Man. I'll go that far. Because getting into that soft rebooty place, I don't care about that. I don't want to see that started over. It's like, I don't care about Tom Holland Spider-Man anymore. I hated the way they ended that. Give me either of the other two right now. Give me a years or decades later sequel for Garfield or Maguire right now, even though I didn't like No Way Home that much.
Yeah, I don't want any more Amazing Spider-Man, but out of those choices, I'll take Spider-Man 4, I guess.
Really low on your list of anything overall you care to see, but if those are the options,
it's like at the bottom of things I want to see Raimi do. But if he really wants to do it, like yeah, I'll be there.
And I hope he Well, no, I don't hope that. Because I forgot he doesn't like the symbiotes. I was gonna say, and I hope the villain is Carnage, so we can finally get a decent Carnage. But
No.
I guess I don't want that.
No, I don't know who I would want him to use for a villain of a possible fourth Raimi movie.
Who would be like big
Because
enough
I
to be?
bet we would do Vulture at this point.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Is like you need somebody, and you need one that maybe hasn't been done before, but would be big enough to hold his own movie and not be a team thing. Because like I'd love to see Chameleon, but I don't know that that's big enough for a whole movie. Like,
well, I think the big thing is you do Kraven as your muscle villain and Chameleon as your like brain, because they're siblings in the comics. That's how I would do.
oh, okay. I feel like the only way around it is probably multiple villains, right?
Probably, and I mean that's a thing he was going to do with 4, I guess, with like the whole sequence where he's taking out like the B grade villains.
Wouldn't it be ironic?
Oh, actually, yeah. What am I talking about? Thanks, John Kelling. Scorpion's my second favorite Spider-Man villain. Of course, Scorpion's my answer.
Sure, and he could have a whole movie. That'd be fine. I hope he wouldn't Spider-Man 3 it where he has to have two. Where he has to do the Batman Returns thing where there's two unrelated villains that find some, contrived reason to team up. Like,
you hate the spider, I hate the spider.
It would be really ironic if we came back and did Spider-Man 4 and Raimi finally did a Sinister Six when Amazing Spider-Man couldn't do it, and we haven't even gotten there with the stupid, Spider-Man universe without Spider-Man in it with Sony. It'd be hilarious.
No, it'll be Sinister Six of villains that we haven't used on film yet. So it'll be like Hobgoblin, Scorpion, Tombstone, Chameleon, Mr. Negative, I guess.
I went
in everything now.
Yeah. I still don't care about that character. I went MCU to, and this wouldn't happen for lots of reasons, but especially with the contract they have with Sony. But I think it'd be really funny if you did a Sinister Six with Spider-Man and other MCU heroes, and it was Mr. Sinister's Sinister Six.
Oh, I thought you were going to say because there's that apparently that thing in the contract where they have to have one MCU hero, except they have to have one MCU villain in the Sinister Six.
Oh, yeah, and that's it. It's Mr. Sinister. It's Mr. Sinister's Sinister Six.
You get like the Mandarin, or you get Kang in the Sinister Six.
Yeah, or it's the leader. That's where we finally bring him back.
Oh heck yeah! I remember it was like right before Endgame was coming out, and I saw this article, and it was like possible villains for Spider-Man 2 and the MCU, and it was like Green Goblin, Doc Ock, Thanos, and I was like, what?
Thanos?
Why is Thanos in this list of possible villains for Spider-Man 2?
That's hilarious. I mean, Thanos has been in a few standalone Spider-Man comics, but that's because so is everyone else.
Mm-hmm. That's when we would finally do the Thanos copter, I guess, is what they were thinking.
Oh, there you go. No reason to cry over spilled milk. I think it would also be really funny if we finally did the Sinister Six, but for no reason at all, they didn't call it that, and they called it the Insidious Six.
Oh my god, that would be amazing. Because every time that comes up, like there's a new Spider-Man movie, my dad's like, "Oh, like will this one use the Insidious Six?"
You should have just been like, "Yes, Dad."
Yes,
it will.
It will.
All right, guys, we're gonna get going. Thanks a lot for watching. I hope you enjoyed our 977th MCU speculation cast, and
we'll be back for a DCU 888th speculation cast.
That's right. Look forward to that, and we'll talk about all of the other possible Batman shows that Matt Reeves can do.
Yeah, and
that
we'll
aren't
talk
in
about
his
the
universe.
casting of Miss Tessmacher for an hour.
By the way, somebody earlier said that the GCPD show is still happening. I don't think that's true, because I thought that turned into the Arkham show, and now the Arkham show isn't even in that continuity.
Yeah, that's what was said.
There's still the Penguin show, but as far as we know, I think that's the only the Batman show.
Yeah, it's the only spinoff as of right now.
You know, I'm thinking about TV shows. This has nothing to do with anything, but I keep having to remind myself that the Continental dropped, and I still want to watch it, and I don't know one person that has seen it, and I've not heard anybody say anything about it.
Yeah, no, same here.
Like, I was really looking forward to that. It's been months. I keep forgetting that is out, and I can watch it. Maybe I'll do a blind commentary on that, because I want to see if anybody will show up and watch it with me. I want to see how many people show up and go, wait, that dropped?
This is a thing that exists.
What?
Do it when the ballerina comes out.
PlushieDX says, that's a great idea. And then I'll wait like 6 months before I do the ballerina. PlushieDX says, Reeves clarified GCPD is still in development as a different, separate thing.
Well, that was the Arkham show. Unless it's something else that I don't know of.
Yeah, Plushie, do you mean like recently he's come out and said that? Because I'm sure there's a lot of clarification that's had to happen after we found out that the Arkham show is not in that universe.
Yeah, it could be something I missed with that. The best was I don't think we talked about this, Cap. Did you hear about the like villain thing for the Batman 2 that was then like immediately shut down?
No, I don't think
it was like the Batman 2 will have Hush, Scarecrow, Professor Pig, and Dick Grayson will also be in it. And then like immediately Gunn was like, no, it's completely made up.
That makes me wonder if at least one of those villains they're already planning to be in the DC Universe Batman movie.
Possibly. I just keep assuming that's going to be a Ra's al Ghul movie. That is possible.
Yeah, but if he was that quick to shut that down, it makes me wonder if that's partly because they have plans for those characters, or for one of those characters.
Well, I think somebody asked him about it too.
Yeah.
But it's nice that a lot of this stuff doesn't get to run rampant on that side.
Yeah, because it does on MCU.
Yep. Wouldn't it be so refreshing if Marvel came out and went, hey, all these Fantastic Four casting rumors are not a thing? Like every time like a new actor is announced, or is talked about.
Yeah, like I always complain about celebrities and like I guess even studio heads and stuff with Gunn, but like people just being on social media too much and like talking too much. But when it comes to this kind of stuff, somebody needs to officially come out and be like, yeah, no, that's not happening. Like, even if it's not the guy at the top. So I was going to say, like...
Someone, yeah.
Like Feige needs to do more of that. But even if Feige doesn't want to be on Twitter or whatever, and, like, I agree with that, like, stay off of that. But somebody needs to make an official statement when leaks happen and go, well, that's not actually real.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then there's always the question of how much of it you can believe, because you'll get direct lies sometimes, certainly, right? Like, way back, 10 years ago now, when Khan wasn't in Star Trek Into Darkness. Oh yes, he is. Or when Nolan said he was only using villains that had never been in a Batman movie before.
Yep, all that good stuff.
That wasn't true.
Yep.
Okay, we're gonna get going. I'm sorry, did you have anything else you want to say, Austin?
No, I'm good.
Well, I don't know if this was a worthy thing to go for 3 whole hours, but we did it, and it was a lot of fun, and I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. And I'm about to fall asleep. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again. I'll be back with more just haphazard streaming as I'm ostensibly on hiatus from regular programming, but I can stay up some and I shouldn't stay up this slate all the time. But do some kind of last minute streams. And Austin, thanks for doing this with me, man.
That was fun.
It was. Austin's
Now we have to do the Daredevil speculation cast that everyone's demanding.
I don't have anything to say about that. We find
God,
someone.
what are you showing me? Come on.
You don't know the difference between L and law? Okay, anyway, we're going to get going. I was Captain Logan. This was Austin. The day goes.
Yeah, see you guys.
Bye, folks.